time spinning away, and nobody open. Now he flips it up into traffic and makes a mistake. Trying to force the play, and it's intercepted. BJ Mays rumbling down inside the 10.
This is 365 Sports.
Bowling Green with no timeouts. Nick Singleton. Touchdown, Penn State.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Klubnik, undaunted, unafraid, complete, Turner, touchdown!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Why not?
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Jennings on the play fake, slides it upfield. Matthew Hickner off to the races. Hickner at the 30, full speed, and the big tight end goes 75. It's a Pony Express.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Ctalina, and Craig Smoak.
And good afternoon, 365 Sports on this Tuesday afternoon. I'm David Smoak, back from a well-rested time in Florida to see my two brothers, and also Marianne. I enjoyed it. I did not take my laptop. That was something that I overcame that fear, but had a great time. Glad to be back. Craig Smoak and Paul Ctalina with me. And you know, what is it about? It seemed like for about 3 or 4 summers, except maybe last year, while I was gone, it was the Colorado and the Pac-12 joining the Big 12 a couple of years ago. And while I was gone, of course, the House settlement came down, the ruling and approval late on Friday evening. And I still see there's a lot of questions about it, but it did at least get to the end line for now.
Yeah, well, welcome back. Good to have everybody back together for a couple of days before we split apart again. But that's the summertime, I suppose. Everybody getting their vacation in before, well, media days in almost exactly a month up in Frisco. So that's where we are in the calendar now. How does that sound to you guys? A month away from media days.
It's a little bit
great. Actually, I think it sounds great.
It does. It's a little. I get a little anxiety because I still want to have, maybe another 2 or 3 of those extended weekends. But
we all would. We'd love to have a lot of those.
I just came back, but I think I'm ready for that. I think I'm ready for that because I've already been in touch with a lot of the sports information people at each school to try to line up a bunch of great interviews the 2 days we're there.
Well, yeah. You come back and it's a completely different college sports world than when you left.
Yes,
it is. It is different now because of the House settlement pushing through. So, like you said, there's still thousands of unanswered questions, I think, at this point, and thousands of people trying to figure out how to manipulate this new system, and thousands of lawyers out there already figuring out the cracks in the armor and the foundation and how to topple this thing. So I don't think we're done by any means talking about the legal ramifications of all this, but it is a different world than when you left, and House is at least settled in this introductory phase. But I don't believe you didn't take your laptop. I find that hard to believe.
I swear to God. I have an iPad that I got for Christmas.
Oh, okay. You took something then.
No,
okay.
But I learned this thinking I could just get on it just like it would be a laptop. And, I have the little thing that props up or whatever. But there's some uniqueness to that I need to go through but I did not return any emails other than on my phone. And one of those was to Jennifer. And that's pretty much it. I promise you, I did use it to watch Netflix on the way to Tampa last Thursday morning on the way back.
That was convenient. Then you learned how convenient the iPad can be.
It's very, and it's also like Paul used to always have one when we take trips, and I'd have this big, huge, whatever laptop that looked like a TV screen, and it is a lot easier to watch something while you're on a plane.
He has the equivalent of like the old box TV as a laptop, basically, is what he has. So you can imagine the iPad and what kind of technology that's like. So yeah, that's perfect for a flight to watch things on. But I'm proud of you because I think we'd all be better served by putting down the technology a little more. Now, you didn't completely, but you did to an extent that you otherwise wouldn't have. So that's good. That's progress.
I stayed out of the business for the most part of what was the show. I was critiquing part of it along the way, but no, really, I did. I went to the beach twice, did not take my cell phone.
And look, to describe the disasters we've gone through with your laptop, you did get a new one, and it's much sleeker than the old one, which was coal-powered, I believe. And the one thing we asked, though, was like you get something that doesn't have to be charged 24 hours a day.
Yes.
That you failed.
Yeah, no.
Because we still have a gigantic plug on your desk.
Well, this is a lot. This lasts longer. It takes a blue pill every afternoon, and it lasts a little bit longer. That's the good news. But the iPad will last forever, which is one less thing.
That has a good battery. I forgot that you had gotten that. So, anyways, welcome back and welcome to this new world of college sports.
It is. I kept up with some of the incoming, I guess you could say, late. It was late Friday evening, and really caught up with most of that a little bit on Saturday.
So would you like Amanda Kristovich helped us get to this conclusion yesterday. So here's the thing. She's at NACDA right now with all the athletic directors.
Yes.
So
boy, don't you know they're having some fun talking.
Here's the thing. Everyone is still confused, but the good news is they know exactly what they're confused about now.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
And they seemingly are on the same page, although you know that people are side-eyeing and making those backdoor phone calls of like, all right, here's how we need to go. Like everybody's still going to have their own selfish interest, and that's going to pop up, and we'll see how that's managed. But in theory, this is good, although from a student's or from an athlete's perspective, it's still questionable how like the cap and things like that are going to work, and that's where you see the problems maybe arising. But you are a man in your 60s. Did you ever think that you would see the day back when you were watching, Johnny Rogers or Switzer in the 80s or, any number of examples that we'd be at a point where schools are just saying like, here's your money, here's your paycheck every month?
No. In fact, we have a guest today, Justin Williams at 4, who's concerned. He wrote a column about whether or not this could lead with all the new rules to what it was like in the past. Maybe fortified by the SEC just to take a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek.
We talked about this yesterday at length. The bag man's back.
Yeah. And Justin Williams will be with us at 4 o'clock. Dan Wetzel today at 3:40. We've got other guests. Jason Shear on Arizona's trip to the College World Series. Before we get to the look of that, I had somebody reach out to me. I guess it was maybe Sunday or Monday on Twitter. You look at what Arizona and also Arizona State have meant to the Big 12 with Arizona State's trip to the college football playoff, winning the football championship, and then also with Arizona winning the Big 12 baseball title, and they're the ones on their way to the College Baseball World Series.
Yeah, I mean, that's an incredible accomplishment for Arizona. I don't think anybody was giving them much of a chance. I don't know about to begin with, but certainly when they got into a series with North Carolina, I think the thought was that would be the end of their road. And plenty of people thinking that North Carolina could be a team to win it all at the end. And here's Arizona knocking them off before Omaha. So that was a big time win. And yeah, I think the Pac schools have come in for the most part and made some immediate splashes. I mean, you mentioned Arizona State winning it in football when nobody gave them a chance to do that. And now you're looking at them as a possible like juggernaut moving forward, not claiming national championships left and right, but competing for Big 12 titles on a regular yearly basis and being a team that regularly feels like they can get into the playoff. We didn't expect that. Arizona thought in basketball they'd be additive, obviously, but baseball, getting to the World Series, that's a big deal. They're the only representative that you have, so that's good. Colorado's brought plenty of attention, and they brought a little bit of winning in football, enough to make it at least interesting close to the end of the season last year. And, well, then there's Utah, and I feel like, this year is obviously huge for them in football to give us a good gauge of really where they are. Was last year kind of just a blip on the radar, or is this the end of the Whittingham era that we're watching unfold? I don't know, but that's a proud program, and it's just odd because going into this, you think that would be the team we'd be talking about first, because that was the team we talked about first when we talked about the additions from the Pac-12, and mostly because of football. And In terms of impact, I think they're 4th out of 4 right now. I mean, would that be fair to say?
Well, you have to include the impact of just Dion and what the attention that Colorado
mentioned
received.
that,
yeah.
The TV ratings and all the news articles and the chatter that otherwise would not be occurring around Colorado whatsoever, or the Big 12 for that matter, because when he talks about Brett Yormark, that floods to the rest of just the conference talk. So yeah, Colorado's brought the number 1 overall draft pick in the NFL.
Yep.
The biggest story in the NFL draft, for a guy who wasn't getting drafted. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they brought plenty of attention, Colorado. And I think Utah's the one where you're like, wow, that was the school that we thought would probably come in and make the biggest wave immediately.
They did too.
And again, I think that's why this football season's a really big deal for a variety of reasons. But yeah, those additions have come in and been really good. And you look at the wave before that, Houston's obviously played for a national championship in basketball. They've been very, very good there. BYU brings a lot of fans and money and attention, and they've got some basketball mojo now, and they were obviously a good story in football a year ago. And I know UCF struggling. They're trying to kind of find their spot. They made a big jump up, and they're trying to figure things out. I think the same thing with Cincinnati.
Yep.
But I mean, it's kind of interesting to look 2 years for one of those 4 and then a not quite a year with the other 4 and see what kind of impacts they've made. But certainly Arizona making the College World Series is a big deal.
Arizona State and Arizona combined have 9 national titles in baseball. Arizona won it the last time in 2012. And so they're in the College Baseball World Series, which now leads us to this because they had a game to play to decide one of the 8 teams. There you are, Arizona and Coastal Carolina. And that great story. Louisville and Oregon State. Murray State knocking out Duke late last night at ACC. And UCLA knocked out, of course, UTSA, who had beaten Texas. And then the 2 SEC teams meet in the opening round, LSU and Arkansas. 7 different conferences are represented. The one with 2 is the SEC. But how about you have the Big 12, the Sun Belt, the ACC, the Pac-12. Also, you have the Missouri Valley with Murray State and the Big Ten with UCLA.
Yeah, it's a great smattering of conferences and teams, especially when you get somebody like Murray State, whose baseball stadium seats less than 1,000. It seats 800 some odd fans. The coach is the one who does the groundskeeping. It
looks like a high school. With all due respect, it does. There's hardly any bleachers at all.
Yeah, they. But they're a fantastic story and had to get up off the ground after a dog pile and get another out as well. So that alone could have been like one of the most embarrassing moments in the history of sports because of reviews. But they did it well. There will not be an all SEC final because the 2 SEC teams are in the same side of the bracket.
Mm-hmm.
You've got some really, really good teams all the way across. But this is also, as far as high seeds go, you've got the 3 seed, the 6 seed, and the 8 seed, and everybody else is double digit or higher. So that's pretty impressive.
Which is why you play the game, right?
Yeah, it's exactly why you play the game. So, this pains me to even look at, but I think, it's hard to really pick a favorite. I guess you'd have to say Arkansas because they're the highest seed, but LSU's really good. I think whoever comes out of the winner of the LSU Arkansas game and Louisville and Oregon State is probably going to be your favorite. Favorites to make it to the final game, but Coastal Carolina's really good and was way underseeded, in my opinion, in this tournament. And we're that way just because they're Coastal Carolina and they're in the Sun Belt, So, but they're a very, very good team.
Yeah, I mean, you and I went back and forth on the SEC thing yesterday about pointing out, well, look, they didn't have all these teams. Like, they could still win the thing, though. So that's all that matters is if LSU or Arkansas win it, I don't give a damn how many teams made it to Omaha. It's like basketball. Yeah, Elite Eight, whatever, Final Four, whatever. It's fun to brag about, but ultimately it's the team that raises the trophy, and I think they've got a really good shot to do that still. But it is an interesting mix of teams. It's not super one-sided in any direction or any part of the country. So I think that's a lot of fun and should keep people engaged at the same time. There's probably a lot of spots that if ESPN had their way, they'd love to fill with much bigger names. But I think that's the cool part about this is that a Murray State and a Coastal Carolina, and even an Oregon State or whoever, depending on who you're talking to, that they're all getting a crack at this thing because they earned their way there. And that's the way it's supposed to be. However you got there, you earned your way to Omaha. That's what all 8 of these teams did. So may the best team win. I think my biggest question is I know LSU is going to be winning the Jello shot thing. I don't really have too much doubt about that at this point. I don't have a great grasp of like the history of the Jello shots. I just remember looking at it like the same time every year. I'm sure Arkansas will represent as well. But beyond that,
hey, Craig, you're in luck. Today's top 5 is a top 8. I rank them.
Oh,
who is
Jello
going
shots.
to?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm wondering. I don't expect much from UCLA, but I think that the rest of them could be interesting in the Jello shot race beyond LSU and Arkansas, who I feel like are just your automatic 2 seeds.
You never know. The racers, maybe they are.
Yeah,
here's
maybe.
the thing.
Maybe they are locked in.
I voted here. I'll just give you a quick preview.
You just mentioned though, Coastal's got what, a 500 seat stadium or 800
Murray State.
So
Murray State does. I rank them 8 just because of that. Now, on per capita Jello shotness, they might kill it, but I put UCLA, just to spoil it a little bit, 7th because I have no faith in them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. What would they want, like a Manhattan or something? That's one of your favorite drinks.
Yeah, love good Manhattan.
Dave Van Horn, Arkansas, is an alum of Arkansas. He did a nice job leading Nebraska for a short amount of time, and then, of course, ended up in Arkansas, his alma mater. He's done a heck of a job ever since that. But Arkansas has never won a baseball national title. They've been to the, I think, the runner-up on a couple of different occasions. So this is Murray State's first ever appearance. You mentioned that they got what appeared to be the third out on what they called a base runner interference. I thought it was a really good slide. I didn't see anything like dirty or anything about it. So they overturned that. Then they got a tapper to first base to step on the bag and end it. And there's the dog pile that counted, the one that sends Murray State. Pretty cool the way they use the name of Omaha with the Murray logo right there in that same spelling. The Racers are in it. They've had a basketball team or two that's been pretty good, but this is great news for them. Meanwhile, every team in the 8 that's in the World Series in Omaha, all of them are brand new this year. Now, some of them have been there before. There's a history, but first time since 1957, that was before I was born, that everybody that was there last year in Omaha, all 8 teams are not back. And that's the first time that's happened in 78 years.
So
think about that.
68
years.
Last year would have been Tennessee.
Yep. They won it.
The ACC had 4 teams, right? Yeah, because last year, wasn't it? It was all SEC, ACC.
Yeah, all 8
yeah,
teams.
so you had, it was Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, and A&M. And then so that was 4 from the SEC. And then you had Florida State, North Carolina, Virginia, and NC State. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is a much different field. I mean, all those teams are not in it, obviously, but to have 2 conferences taking up all 8 spots, 4 apiece, sounds like the new playoff with the Big Ten and the SEC. But
yeah, exactly.
But, that's unique, and I wouldn't have thought about that. And that's what Sicko's committee is for facts like that, right? So that's cool. Yeah, that's really neat that's occurring, and that it's as fresh of a bracket as you could have, because there's nothing returning from a year ago, and just the splitting of interest across the country and across various leagues, I think, can only be a good thing for the sport overall. Now, it may be a bad thing in terms of TV ratings, because you are replacing a lot of big brands with some smaller schools, but I don't give a damn, because I'm not a TV network executive, as I have to remind people probably far too often. So who cares what the freaking TV ratings are? I just hope it's great baseball. That's what I'm looking for.
That's what it's like Indiana against Oklahoma City in the NBA, which Craig will get to that during Off the Radar at 4:45. Duke, meanwhile, was knocked out last night. I think it was 4-3, whatever the score was. And now Virginia, who lost their coach, has now hired Duke's Chris Pollard to replace him with the Cavaliers immediately after they made their run to the regional final, super regional final last night.
It's a double whammy. They lost a really good coach in Chris Pollard, or I mean, not Chris Pollard. Lost a really good coach who went down to, O'Connor, who went down to Mississippi State. Chris Pollard has done a great job at Duke, but it's a double whammy. You steal somebody from a conference rival, and now you've kind of put them into having to go find
Here comes the musical chairs.
I just don't really love when a guy just lost and the next day he's got a new job. That always makes me kind of scratch my head a little bit,
like Schlossnagel.
Why were you possibly distracted? Well, my agent's handling that. Yeah, he's still contacting you, so I don't love that look, but that's part of the deal. I don't know how you work your way around that. So I mean, I'm not going to pretend to be Baseball America here. I have no idea how good of a hire this is, other than Duke went pretty far, and so go steal somebody from a conference rival and somebody who's been successful. And yeah, that makes sense to go and grab him if you're the Cavs trying to make a move. So we'll see what Duke does in response to it.
Yeah, so there we are, some baseball notes. And then this one here, I maybe took my eye off the ball, but always thought, now I know Paxton said, wait a minute, don't give up on a double whammy with Fox and their noon kickoff and then also game day. And this was kind of not an upset, because anytime you're going to be at Ohio State, Texas, and they could be ranked 1 and 2 or 2 and 4, whatever, that's where game day, college game day, will be in Columbus, Ohio, as will Fox's noon kickoff. And Lee Corso, that is where it all began when he picked Brutus, Ohio State, in his first ever college game day prediction.
Yeah, say that's why they want to do it all you want. I mean, I hate this. I mean, I know, I get it. It's the best game. It's Texas and Ohio State. I get it. But there's already a broadcast that's going to be there. And I don't personally like when both these programs share the same broadcast. I think it's bad for college football. That, look, if you weren't going to pick FSU and Alabama and Big Noon, Fox, who has that game, is there. If I'm ESPN, I'm going to go to a game that I have, and I'm going to go to Tigers versus Tigers, Clemson and LSU. So,
which could be the game with the number 1 and number 2 quarterbacks taken in the draft.
Yeah,
right?
So that's what I personally would do if you're not going to give them a chance to roll out at his alma mater. But I get it. It's FSU's own fault for, sucking
being
wholesale,
irrelevant.
Yeah, sucking wholesale ass last year.
Yeah.
So
I hate the Florida State fan that chimes in and doesn't know that I'm joking when I say those things. Yeah. Or am I?
But look, hey, they did it to themselves. I mean, like this is not like some, there's going to be a whole, series of message board posts on all of them that are like, oh, it's ESPN's conspiracy against FSU. Like,
I saw some of that.
No,
I did.
We were 2-10 last year.
Yeah.
The worst season in school history.
No, that is already a response that I've seen quite a few times.
Yeah, it's not ESPN's conspiracy. Believe me, they would probably have loved to slobber over Alabama and classic LSU. They would have loved to do it. You ruined it. By going 2-10.
Yeah. They aren't very good right now, and so that probably spoiled their chances as much as anything else. I also, feel like it's not to be fair to people that I saw point this out, not just today, but in weeks past. Of like, I don't think that everybody identifies him with FSU specifically, right? So if you're an FSU person, it's like extra cool, and that would have been something meaningful. If you're not an FSU person, or you don't even know that there's that connection, you're not even blinking at that report that's where they're going. That's just what you'd assume would have been the case. So I don't think it's any surprise. I mean, there's like only so many combinations, like a handful of elite combinations that, like, no matter what's going on in the rest of the country, these two programs are going to be at the same spot, and Texas, Ohio State's one of them. I think you throw Alabama probably in there. Although Bama, Florida State, I get, but it's Bama versus Florida State. But if it was Bama, Texas, or it's Bama, Ohio State, right, then they're both going to flock to that game. So this is one of those, like, just premier brand games that you knew they weren't going to be able to pass up. So I get why there's so much attention and all eyes on this one, and I can only imagine the hype we're going to get over the next 2 months. But I'm with you on, I don't think they should be going to the same place. And it felt like last year that was happening a lot. Now, I'm going to double check on that, but it felt like for a good stretch they were both just at the same places. And I might be misremembering that entirely, but either way, I do think that they should be as separate as possible to spread the love a little bit. Yeah, but as far as starting the season and all of that, like I get they both, Fox and ESPN, have big interest, obviously, in these two programs. So it makes sense. It's not a big conspiracy, but I can understand where Florida State fans just feel like that's more fuel on the fire.
It's a banger. That's our name for a monster game. Clemson LSU is a banger. Florida State Alabama for the longest time could have been, but it's not. And so it's a banger. And you're right. Boy, don't you know the turf war of where they need to be? And I would think because Fox has the game, they will be able to find their location. But either way, you kind of like, if you're a fan and you're there to go watch the game, like, where do you go? You're a fan of one or the other.
But the other thing I would say, and
I bet Fox is not real thrilled with this, but they knew it was probably coming.
I do enjoy the fact that Urban Meyer is going to get screwed in this because where are you going to go if you're an Ohio State fan? Are you going to go to Lee Corso's final game? Are you going to go watch the diet version of that same show that Fox didn't even bother to differentiate in their style of it? Yep. It's the same exact show, just crappier. I mean, like, just not as fun. You know,
I think a lot of people like it better than Game Day that I've seen.
Well, I mean, I guess to each their own.
Yeah.
I mean, when you put up, some of the talent they have there, I'm not going to watch it. But I mean, I'm just talking about one person in particular. But
you clearly do not like Urban Meyer. We're establishing that.
Just say it.
But so Urban, you put Urban Meyer.
Exactly.
Look, I'm far more interested in what Nick Saban has to say. I'm far more interested in the fun that Lee Corso brings. Now, with him gone, it's going to probably change it a little bit for me where it won't be as much appointment viewing as it used to be. But that's kind of been the case the last couple of years as he's done less and less. But I mean, the reason I don't like Big Noon Kickoff is, in spite of the fact they do have some pretty good people on it, other than Urban Meyer, is that they didn't even try to come up with a different idea. They just did the same exact show.
Well, why don't you? The football teams copy what other football teams do, right?
Yeah, but like
most of those night shows, aren't they all the same at 10:30 or so?
Yeah, I mean,
kind of.
Yes, but like everybody has their own unique slant on things.
Yeah.
So like, yes, the Tonight Show and the Late Show are very similar, but they all do it differently. My thing is, like, Fox just like, hey, we're going to do this and hope no one notices.
Yeah,
I would try to cut my own.
Can I give you guys my view of this? I don't watch either one of them very much anymore. That doesn't mean it's not great content. Both of them have their ways, but I just don't. It's not something that's like program viewing, even if it involves two great teams like Ohio State and or Texas are. Again, this season.
Yeah, I don't even really watch either much at this point either. If I do, I kind of lean Game Day, but it also depends on what sort of mood I'm in. Like, am I tolerating Pat McAfee's energy this early in the morning, or am I just not like really into it, you know? And then just the Corso thing's been painful to watch for a couple of years, in my opinion. I mean, it's long past due that he's going off into the sunset. So I'm glad they can send him off on their own terms and everything, but this seemed like the no-brainer. And beyond that, like, yeah, I mean, it's basically College Game Day, the Fox version. That's exactly what it is. I don't know how many different ways you can do it, though. Like, you can go stick them in a studio? Well, it's just a studio show, and there's 1,000 of those. So I'm not sure how they could do it differently. It's definitely a homage / straight ripoff of Game Day. But then again, so is every pregame show that's outside, you know, to some extent. So I don't know. I'd have to watch more to really spot any differences. But either way, the point being that it's not a shock that these two programs are both going to the biggest game possible on the opening weekend of college football.
Yeah, no, that's why it is. And I'm sure Fox Big Noon Kickoff knew that even though they have the game, that there was a good chance the Corso Game Day would be there too. So there we are with some college football news, but not done. So again, I was out. Thursday through yesterday's show. Late Friday night was the House settlement, at least the approval. A lot of different things and shrapnel, et cetera, has come from that. So I'll let Paul and Craig kind of dice their way or kind of go through this. Christy Dosh, by the way, congratulations on her book about NIL. Couple of different notes about, here's one of the things. There are some athletes that don't quite understand the rules, and this is supposed to start in early July, including this one, when she said, I can't wait to hear how schools are going to get athletes to submit. When I've asked what percentage of athletes they think have submitted NIL deals under the previous school rules that required disclosure, they usually tell me about 10 to 20%.
Yeah, go to the next one because it all kind of ties in together.
I messaged two athletes I know this morning, asking them about the new rules around submitting deals over $600 to NIL Go, which is the one we'll be watching what they're doing. Had no idea what it was talking about. They never heard of NIL Go, yet they're supposed to start submitting June 7th or after. June 7th, of course, is gone by, and they only have 5 days to do it. Small sample size, but there's a big Power 4 program or two and a lot of high earners. So there's a lot of confusion even with the approval.
But this is there's nothing like that's why we're gonna have Justin Williams talking about it in about a half an hour. He wrote about the return of the bagmen. Yeah, what's the incentive for them to do this and report it if there's any way around the punishment of it? And if it's just going to get caught up, I mean, you're costing them hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that's why the bagman's going to come back potentially. And yeah, I mean, they weren't really submitting the deals anyway because they didn't have to. And then all of a sudden you have it where you have to do it in a week. There's going to be a lot of, cleaning up some of the mess from this once they get it implemented. So
I think the thing that would deter you is getting punished for it.
Yeah, that's true. But you don't right now you have no idea what the punishments are.
Yeah, but
you have no idea what the exact rules are.
Right, but in line with that, we have no idea how all this works to begin. None of it. So I mean, so they're complaining or not complaining, but they're saying we don't have any idea. Nobody knows how any of this works. It just happened yesterday, basically. Yeah. So we're all sorting through various stories and interviews and whatever, trying to get our heads around it. So yeah, I'd imagine the athletes are confused. I'd imagine the coaches are confused. I'd imagine pretty much everybody who didn't design this thing is confused, and there will be people working their way around it because it's college sports, and that's what people do. They cheat. They try to find ways to gain an advantage, no matter how small the advantage may be. That is ingrained in the history of this sport.
Sure is.
So somebody's going to try to cheat this however they possibly can, and I can bet that somebody will try to use a bagman to some extent. But you could do that in the past and not really worry too much about it. By the end of the NCAA's, I guess they're not totally out of the picture, but in terms of being this,
they had no balls left.
Yeah, I mean, they had nothing left by the end of their actual enforcement stage. So you just sued them and disagreed with it, and then publicly went on a PR campaign and lambasted the NCAA, how they're anti-athlete, and same song and dance that everybody kept doing there. By the end, it felt like not that they were entirely toothless, but that was the perception, and they didn't have many teeth left by the end. But with this whole setup, then the thought is you do have an enforcement wing, and if schools are going to be a part of this, they have to, put on paper that, hey, we're going to play by the rules. And if we don't, here's what could happen. And that's the interesting part, is what's going to be the punishment, and are you actually going to follow through with it? And most of all, will it actually be enforceable? And that's what the agreement's all for, is to ensure that it would be. So I think that's the deterrent. But yeah, there's still going to be those that try to steal signs or come up with elaborate gimmicks to find information on the other team, or to put $1,000 envelopes in lockers, and you're not going to be able to catch all of that. But I guess the bigger stuff, you're hoping that there's actually a real threat that you could get hurt, and that'll deter folks from doing so. But it's college sports, so people are still going to cheat.
Yeah, absolutely, and they will. By the way, with some of what you've learned, everyone else has learned. I have Scott Drew, by the way, interviewed him earlier today, and I even asked him, do you even know the rules as far as what is next? It was interesting because they had to rebuild basically their entire roster. Brandon Marcello, yesterday evening, it's believed Texas Tech will pay its players $55 million revenue sharing and the NIL. So that's the 20.5 and whatever they were going to also pay because of their support from boosters, donors, etc., among all of their programs, making the Red Raiders perhaps the highest paying college athletics program in the country. And then I saw this from Cody Campbell, who he will join us. I've been back and forth with him. Remember, there was a commission. I think he wanted to let that settle a little bit. Texas Tech has the best alumni and supporters in the country. We are all in and will compete at the very highest level. Get your guns up. So there we are with a note about the Red Raiders.
So
and not just football.
So it was crazy to think that Texas a few months ago was spending like $50 million on their roster, and here's
40,
Cody Campbell basically confirming that they're spending $55 million.
Well, I think it's for everything.
Yeah. This
okay.
is
Well,
for
not just football.
Still,
okay. Well, but still though, like he's leaning into it and not going like, no, that's crazy. No way we would do that. So I guess, there is the difference in just football versus entire sports department. But I mean, this is the MO of Texas Tech for the last year and a half is we've got a lot of money and we're going to use it to win and to win championships. And they've done that to some extent. Obviously track and field national championships, but that wasn't like because of the NIL era. That was already something that they were having immense success at. So I don't know how much that really changed. It's not really about that. It's about softball. It's about football. It's about basketball. They've been to the Elite Eight when was that? 2 years ago?
In basketball.
Yeah, in basketball. And then
Final Four, remember, with Chris Beard.
Yeah, that was
long
years ago, but not that long ago, really. And then baseball was very good up until this year, really. Football, we'll see. I mean, they're the ones that have the heaviest weights on their shoulders. And then softball makes it to the final game of the softball season. So they've won some Big 12 titles. They've had some success. And for the people wondering how this was possible, it's because they got it all in under the deadline, right? They got it all in as far as next year and the payments, they got it in before House was passed. Am I reading that correctly? And so that's why, how is that possible? I thought there was a cap. Well, it's because they got it all done, and they even acknowledged as much that they were going to try to sneak in, and I don't mean sneak negatively, they were going to try to sneak in as much as they possibly could
up front
before that got passed. And so that's what they did. So that's why they have this godly amount of money that you're going, how is that possible with the new rules? I don't know how it works on the other side. I don't know how like $30 million in NIL deals is going to pass the smell test, because I don't know how that's possible. But for this year, it doesn't matter. So good for them.
Ross Bjork on the penalties real quickly, then Paul followed up, and then Dan Wetzel. The College Sports Commission will have a menu of penalties that they can choose from. It's like going to a buffet or a restaurant, but that was from Ohio State, former A&M AD Ross Bjork to Amanda Kristovich as well.
Yeah, and I hope that I think the biggest thing is not that there's penalties, is that they matter to the people who actually committed the crimes and not people years later, and that these things get adjudicated while these people are still at their jobs. If a coach gets in trouble and then leaves, and it was the coach who did it, and 4 years later the school is then getting punished, you missed your window, NCAA. It's not fair to the next coach that he took a job that another guy sullied a little bit. There's that. When it comes to the other thing, Craig, the fiscal year is how they're going to do it. We talked about it a little bit yesterday when it comes to the tanking thing. I think this kind of works in reverse. So what they've done is front load it for this fiscal year. So now, because it doesn't start, the college football fiscal year starts July 1st. So now after July 1st, they probably front loaded a lot of these deals. A lot of the football guys are only 1 year of eligibility guys anyway. So it's not like they're going to have to get them again in the transfer portal. But we talked about how some teams may decide to tank and not spend on their roster because they're just not the guys out there, and then roll that money over.
Why would you spend money if it's not going to help you?
Exactly. So with the revenue sharing, so say you have $14 million to spend for football, but there's not guys out there. You may spend $8 million and save that $6 million and then just roll it into the next part.
As the calendar starts back up again. When we come back, Dan Wetzel from ESPN, Justin Williams from The Athletic, Jason Scheer from Wildcat Authority on the Wildcats run to Omaha, and a lot more. Off the radar, the top 5, and Scott Drew one-on-one. This is 365 Sports.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Right now at Berg Colgan Ford, we're bringing you an offer that's as big as America. Employee pricing for everyone. You pay what they pay. That means you drive home a new Ford F-150, Bronco Sport, Expedition, Super Duty. From America, for America. Employee pricing for everyone at BK Ford. Looking to sell your vehicle? Get top dollar for yours today. Don't miss out. Employee pricing is available for a limited time. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Experience better at BK Ford.
I'll never get used to this.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
365 Sports just got a text from Dad Wetzel. He's out. He will not be a part of the segment. Look forward to Justin Williams coming up at the top of the hour. There's still some more football news to get to, or I guess NCAA news to get to. And what was a push for what seemed like ever when it came to the House settlement and any kind of approval, the back and forth that lingered and lingered and lingered. And now it's official, the approval. There will be eventually, you hope, a time when this is not even a part of the conversation. And we, again, in college sports, though, you never know. Ross Dellinger. Per the bill text obtained by Yahoo Sports, provisions include a codification of athlete NIL rights, a 10-year degree completion for athletes, athlete medical protection, scholarship guarantees, agent oversight, anti-employment clause, and preemption of state NIL laws. Now, this is a part of the bill that's conjunction with the approval now with the House settlement. This is part of the bill that possibly is going to be something that is finalized in Congress.
Well, see, a lot of this, except for the anti-employment thing, is to try to make it, and it is a bipartisan bill. It is a Republican and Democrat sponsoring the bill. It's not the first bipartisan bill, but this is the one that is in front of it right now. And when you codify those athlete NIL rights to make sure that whatever governing body's in charge doesn't find a loophole to try to take them back over some time. 10-year degree completion means that you can.
Hey, I can appreciate
but
that.
you can go to the pros and they
Right.
still have to
Right.
honor, they don't get to charge you because you can, wind up, leaving as a junior, getting hurt, and then, it's 3 years later. Sorry, you missed your window. Now, most places honor that, but to build it in legally is good. Medical protections are very important. It's something that hasn't existed. Scholarship guarantees is very important because those can change. Agent oversight is very much needed. It's one of the things we had with Christy Dosh about her new book, when we had her on last week, about having an agent clearinghouse, an agent certification process, so that you can if you have somebody and you're a college athlete that they know what they're doing it in your best interest, and they're not, one of these street agents. Preemption of state NIL laws is something they really have to do because, all 50 states can do whatever they want depending on, the way the wind is blowing. The anti-employment clause is something the NCAA wants very, very badly because they want to try to prevent collective bargaining all they want. I don't think this prevents collective bargaining, but it makes it maybe a little bit more difficult. But collective bargaining is coming one way or another, whether Congress passes this law or not. So it's going to come eventually. So maybe it says they can't be employees, and that saves the universities a little bit of money, but that doesn't mean that they can't unionize and collectively bargain as contract employees either. So.
Well, it'll be interesting to see, but it looks like there is a little bit of momentum for that, which at times it looked like it was dead in the water completely. I saw this note about the scholarship security, as you mentioned, prohibits schools from canceling or reducing scholarships based on athletic performance, injury, or roster management. The agent oversight establishes, as you mentioned, agent registration, disclosure requirements to protect athletes from exploitation. And by the way, agents, the good ones, are the ones that have kind of had to go about learning the new stuff or what they've been doing before. They want this too because there are some rogue agents, those that are probably getting too much commission. Even the agents who get commission are saying, wait a minute, that's not a very fair contract. The employment status prohibits student athletes from being classified as employees, of course, preserving the collegiate non-professional model. Federal preemption creates a single national standard, overriding inconsistent state laws to ensure clarity for athletes, schools, and sponsors as each state is passing their own, I guess you could say, laws when it comes to the NIL. So there we are with that.
NIL. I don't know. The NIL.
Yeah. No.
I don't know why that always I don't know. It just sounds funny to me. The NIL.
Yeah. But it is not. Is it the, or is it just straight NIL?
It's just NIL.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. The NIL. You said a lot of things that I'm sorry. I started to lose focus because you started talking politics, and you know how I am with that. I can't do it. But I do think that an obvious step forward that needs to be taken is to have everybody under the same banner. Not Wisconsin feels like they need to get an inherent advantage in NIL, so they pass a specific bill to Wisconsin that they get to do something that Virginia
Ohio,
and Tennessee don't get to do.
I would tell you that what'll happen is that you've already seen it with Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. They've passed multiple NIL laws.
Tennessee too, right?
Yeah, Tennessee. So all of them have passed
where
multiple.
Where do they all play? Where are they located?
Exactly.
Louisiana.
Yeah. So they're all doing it so that you can, look what this one does. Well, how can we get an advantage?
Yeah.
Well, if the cap in Alabama is 27%, ours is going to be 35.
Right.
And all these things. So they keep doing it. So if Wisconsin, for example, whatever Ohio does, Michigan and Wisconsin are going to be we'll do that. They've got to stop that.
Yeah, everybody needs to be on the same plane, and I don't know how that gets done. That's not my area of expertise, but I do think that is a glaring issue that needs to be tied up, or a glaring loose end that needs to be tied up if this thing is going to be all for the better moving forward. Because, if you've got different states with different rules to help their in-state schools and hurt their next state over rivals or whatever, then that just keeps the messiness going on. And so, I think that to have a blanket rule, although I know that comes with its political landmines and its own issues, but that's what we're talking about, is working on those things. So that's an obvious one to me that needs to change.
I'll tell you, it's really easy to do. And I'm surprised the NCAA didn't do this. I think I've mentioned it on the show many times. When the NCAA was trying to figure out what the NIL rules should have been, they should have taken the greatest hits of the NIL laws that were on the books and then reformatted it to fit their model. That's what they should have done. And then the states probably wouldn't have messed with them too much, because they would have been like, well, this is what we wrote anyway. And so if you are the U.S. Congress, what you do is the same thing, is you take the greatest hits, all the ones that make sense, take those laws, take the best ones, make it codify it and pass it. And then most of the states will be like, yeah, we're cool with this because this is what we did anyway. And now we don't have to keep on bringing up a bill because because South Carolina outfoxed us.
Yeah.
Like that's what they have to do.
And that's what it is. It's like these individual politicians who went to they want to go Dogs, they want to get Georgia that leg up against South Carolina and Tennessee and whoever. So they got to pass their NIL bill, and everybody ends up with 15 different versions of the same thing, basically. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's something that I guess apparently would not be that difficult. And that's one that for somebody who's not real into the weeds on a lot of these particulars, that one does stand out to me as something that needs to be fixed. So
yeah,
it's on the list.
So let me ask you then this question. Based on the approval that came in late Friday evening, which was a perfect news drop on a Friday evening, do we know anything more today than we did leading up to the approval?
Yeah, we're not talking about the stupid thing passing
Yeah,
and
exactly.
getting, becoming official. So yeah, I'd say it's a step forward. And now the next part of the conversation has started as to what are the actual changes and what are the actual rules and how do you punish teams and what repercussions are there? And you mentioned this taste testing menu of penalties that you could incur, and all of these things, I guess, were maybe talked about a little bit, but now we can actually get into the details of it. And if there are issues that jump up along the way, lawsuits, then those will come with the territory, and those are to be expected to some degree. But at least now you're moving forward. It felt like for a long time they were just standing, waiting on the elevator that would never arrive, and finally the bell dinged and they can get on. And I don't know if it's going to take them floor by floor and be a really tedious process to get to the top where they ultimately just are on the other side of this thing, or if they're going to just shoot straight up and we get there quicker than expected. I don't know, but at least they're on the elevator and it's moving now, as opposed to just sitting there and waiting and waiting and waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, I tell you what, where I was, the condo where my brother and Marianne live, his wife, that is the best elevator. It is as smooth as silk. 20 stories, baby. 20 stories.
I hope I get to ride it. No, just so I can say my elevator checklist. But Craig, to your point, it's funny to think about. Had the NCAA just not messed with what she wanted and done that in the first place, which they should have known that because she said it in the first part of it, had they just done it in the first place, this could have been done a month ago.
Yeah, but, again, it goes back to the schools trying to figure out every way but to do what they're supposed to and have to do. So they were going to say, well, what about if we – no, you can't do that. Well, what about if we – no, you can't do that. Well, what if – no, there's literally nothing you can do but accept this the way that it is, and they finally had to accept it. And I know they still tried to tweak it where they could, but yeah, they finally ran into a point where they didn't have a choice, Paul.
Yeah, I know.
It was this or bust, you know?
I still think it sucks that the schools that are not going to get much revenue are the ones that have to still, make the commitment to the revenue.
And that's going to be interesting once this expires, once the back pay is done, how it grows from there. But Judge Wilkin basically said, here's what I told you specifically.
Yeah.
This wasn't a maybe not. Specifically, I like everything but this not grandfathering in the roster limits, just right in the grandfather of the roster limits. And they're like, I hear you, but, and you're like, no, just do that. Have a plan for that.
Yeah, I don't know if Dan Wetzel, I'm sure we'll get on at another time. He's on with us, occasionally, so I'm sure we'll get him sooner rather than later. I get it's a definite busy time right now. It's either busy time or it's vacation time. Basically, at this time of year,
he might be working on a story.
But he might be at NACTA for all I know, is what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I know that Ross Dellinger's there, and he put out a quote from Charlie Baker a few minutes ago that said, I guess Charlie Baker speaking to administrators and said that college sports' collective inability to change years ago put the entire enterprise at risk. Well, he is talking to the freaking – that's the pot talking to the kettle in Orlando right now, is it not?
Yep.
I mean, yeah, all of you people in this building could have helped stave this off, or some of you especially more than others. And instead, we waited to the last possible minute to try to fix this thing. And so, yeah, it did put everything at risk, Charlie. And the inability to change wasn't an inability. It was a lack of want to. It wasn't an inability to do anything. It was, they did not want to change until the government said, you are changing or this is over. And they said, well, I think we should change now. So, yeah, I think he's stating the obvious, but he's also speaking to an audience that could have prevented all of this to begin with. So,
yep.
I
asked Scott Drew that question at the end
I think
of the
that's where, maybe Dan's caught up with some of that. I know Ross is. So, either way, there's plenty to talk about. And this has been an interesting 72 hours of this. And I've seen as many holes poked in this thing, and I don't know how legitimate the poking of those holes, if there's legitimate gripes on how this looks and what'll be torn apart and sued to death and ultimately changed or not. But it does feel like we're on the other side of something. It's just not smooth sailing yet. We're just not like in the heart of the storm. We're on the edges of it at this point. I know that can still be dangerous, but you can at least see like a little bit of sunshine out there on the horizon somewhere. So I think that's a better place than we were last week at this time, certainly. But there's a lot to figure out still. A lot of unanswered questions.
Dan Wessel just did text me 3:40 Friday, so we'll have him on Friday. I bet something popped up for him.
Oh, yeah, he doesn't like Paul. That's what it was.
Yeah.
No. Wait till Paul's gone.
One other quick note in college football that we do have Justin Williams at the top of the hour. We'll do the high school stuff, Garrett, a little bit later on because both of them are interesting stories. But Deion Sanders makes me nervous because he's had some health issues. We know about what's happened with his foot, his leg, etc., but has been staying at his Texas estate during the offseason, dealing with an unspecified health matter. His son, Deion Jr., said he's feeling well. His father's feeling well. Unclear when he will return for any of the summer camps that they're hosting. But that story there, Deion has weathered some pretty serious and awful. Remember, there was even one time when they thought he might lose part of his leg. Because
he lost part of his toes already. Yeah.
So hopefully he's fine and doing okay, and hopefully we get an update on him. It's early, but at some particular point. We'll see.
I mean, if you're going to be gone, I guess this is an okay time to be gone, and you can remotely jump in and talk to your team if need be or whatever the case. But anytime you see health issues, you do worry a little bit. So given his history of having some issues, hopefully it's nothing too serious, and he'll be back for, well, I guess a month till media days is when we would expect to see him. So hopefully he's well by then, and it's nothing too worrisome. But got to take care of yourself, and he's been through a lot. So hopefully it's not a story that we keep talking about too much longer than this.
Coming up, Justin Williams. He had the story earlier today, and the story, and he's the one that brought up, as you guys discussed yesterday, the Bagman. The return of the Bagman. NIL Clearinghouse could revive paying college athletes under the table. I don't know if that's, I'm not saying on his part an overreaction, but could it lead to that? And why could it lead to that? That and more. We appreciate your time. This is 365 Sports. The Texas Tour, Baylor alumni fan engagement. Doug Furt got an email from him just a moment ago. In fact, because you start to see various colleges, Baylor, with coaches, football, men's, women's basketball, and much more, touring the state or the area, the perimeter, the region, of which they, of course, have great donors and alums, whether it's in Dallas or the Houston area or in San Antonio, which is three of our largest viewing markets based on what we do with 365 Sports. The kickoff luncheon, Nick Florence, former Baylor quarterback, will be the guest speaker. That will be in August. Home tailgating, the game at SMU in Dallas with Bears on the road, tailgating at the Bush Library on the SMU campus. If you want to know about more of that, information about wherever they are when they do travel or even at home, including that blackout to open up against Auburn, which they announced, of course, over the weekend, I guess, or yesterday, it's the Baylor Fan Alumni Engagement Group.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Justin Williams joins us. Good to have him. Wrote the article, Return of the Bagman. NIL clearinghouse could revive paying college athletes under the table. He's written a lot of stuff. Covers college football, the Big 12, and much more for theathletic.com. Justin, thank you very much for your time. What's been the reaction to your story about bringing up the boogeyman?
It's been interesting. I think there's a certain corner or certain corners of college sports, college football that wouldn't mind going back to the days of the bag man. And honestly, I think there's some people in college sports that may, even in the industry a little cynically, who are like, when it was kind of out of sight, out of mind, and whether we were pretending it wasn't happening or didn't realize it was happening, maybe it was a little bit easier to just kind of go about your day. But I definitely think there's, with the settlement in general, there's kind of these two camps. There's those who are really invested in the settlement and have put a lot of work and effort into it, and they want it to work, and they're kind of frustrated by the skepticism and the cynicism that's out there. And then there's that other group that is really just looking at the history of college sports and feel like, well, we only have this basis to go on, and it hasn't worked in the past, or there hasn't been any significant changes like that. So I think you're seeing the push and pull with things like this or anything related to the settlement.
Justin, leave it up to the NCAA to kind of mess up a settlement in the first place and make it take longer than it should have. And then immediately after they finally get it done, realize that the biggest thing that they've been trying to get out, they might have unleashed again. I mean, that's I think where this College Sports Commission is going to have to really make some strong rules that will not get challenged to make it work. What do they do?
Yeah, I mean, so that the people that are invested in this and that have put it together, they believe in it. And they've been saying all along, maybe they haven't been out there on social media or just kind of, being loud about it, but they believe this is going to work. Well, now we're going to have to see it. And some of that might be, they feel like they have to stand behind it. I think there is some concern or just anxiety to see if it actually will work now that it's in practice. But you mentioned like the College Sports Commission. This is not the NCAA. This is actually pulling a lot of responsibility and oversight away from the NCAA. And the way it's being sold by those involved is this is different. It's going to act faster. It's going to have a little bit more latitude. It's going to have some more teeth to it. And for those out there that doubt it, I think the only thing that would really change that opinion is the first time the College Sports Commission has a chance to kind of come down on something, whether it catches someone breaking the rule or whether it wants to kind of push the envelope of, you have to abide by this settlement. We'll see what that punishment looks like. If it comes out and it has a pretty strict punishment and, whoever gets dinged with it can really feel it, then it might actually put a little bit of, fear or at least, kind of falling in line into these people that are skeptical or speaking out about it right now. But honestly, we won't really know what that looks like until it happens because it's also new.
In regards to that, I know there's just so many details that we still don't have an idea on yet, but in order to be punished, you had to agree to opt in, right? And sign like, hey, we're a part of this. And so if you get punished, you can't turn around like so many schools have done previously and sue this entity like they did with the NCAA, right? So like if you're even in line to get punished, that means you have agreed to be punished and you can't turn around and say, no, that's not with the rules.
Yeah, so like we'll give a hypothetical example. An athlete signs an NIL deal that, would have come through a collective. That's the way it's been going the past couple of years. This new clearinghouse overseen by the College Sports Commission says, actually, under the settlement, this isn't allowed. We're going to deny this deal. The athlete can't sue the College Sports Commission because they've opted out of that by being a class member of the settlement. The colleges, at least as we understand, aren't going to be able to sue because they've signed these participation affiliation agreements. They've basically kind of signed on to the settlement. Now, that doesn't prevent a collective or an outside company or organization from bringing a complaint or a lawsuit. It doesn't prevent, state attorneys general from maybe bringing a lawsuit. That's where we've seen some of this in the past. Now, those in the industry might say, well, when the Tennessee Attorney General went after the NCAA, maybe the University of Tennessee was either nudging it or not discouraging it. And maybe under these new rules, the University of Tennessee is going to say, hey, let's lay off. But I think that's the biggest question of the settlement. It's definitely going to change things. Schools are paying athletes. But the big thing everyone wants to know is, will this new NIL clearinghouse work as it's supposed to? And I think until we have someone either test the clearinghouse or the clearinghouse, finds a problem with the deal, we're not going to actually know what that looks like.
Saw some reports today, some columnists that have been covering the legal part of all of this, which a lot of it is legal, that mentioned even some athletes who were texted or contacted today don't know anything about NIL Go, don't know anything about a deadline, don't know anything about anything. And every school, of course, is going to have to help those athletes along the way. How long is it going to take for all of that to get where it needs to go?
That's kind of an interesting part of this. And that's why, I think maybe this whole, the return of the bag man, I've talked to some recruiting staffers who have said, we're not going to tell an athlete to, break the rules or to not declare an NIL deal, but they also maybe haven't talked to their athletes at all about the settlement or this whole clearinghouse kind of thing. They're almost, just stepping back and saying, hey, whatever happens, happens. If they want to declare, great, so they're not going to, basically inculcate themselves, but they're also not out there saying hey, you need to make sure if you sign a deal that you declare it. And then on the same side, that's, the agent side, there's some questions of, are agents telling their athletes, hey, don't declare a deal or don't do it honestly, or are they not saying anything at all? So part of this is an education aspect, you're right. And it is going to fall back on the schools at some point. So I do think they're going to have to decide hey, we need to educate our athletes on how to do this and why it's important. But we go back to that first kind of punishment gets handed down. The first person that gets, wrapped up in this is they're going to declare ignorance, or they're going to say, hey, we didn't know the rules. We didn't know how this works. I'm really sorry. Is the College Sports Commission going to say, okay, we get it. This is new. This is early. We're not going to get you in trouble, because then how long is that excuse going to work? So this is all kind of the delicate balance. I understand why so many schools are really buying in, and at the administrative level, why they want to make it work. But then I also think you can see from the other side why maybe a little bit lower down, coaches, recruiting staffers, things like that, it's a little bit harder to get them to kind of buy in.
Well, I would say that the fastest way to get sued, again, is to try to do your old things where there was no nuance. It was just punish. And so if they want to do that and show, like, if they want to have a show of force, I think that will backfire on them, as opposed to saying, like, look, we know this thing is supposed to start on June 7th, for the deals, even though we don't have any exact rules in place because of the delay in the settlement and how long it took. We're going to give everybody a 6-month grace period to figure this out as we write the actual rules, because I think wouldn't it be dumb to just be like, oh, well, you didn't submit your thing on June 9th, and here we go. Now you're in trouble. You've lost eligibility.
Yeah, I mean, that would probably, like you said, it would probably bring some type of a complaint or lawsuit from someone. But again, it goes back to until, the College Sports Commission and the clearinghouse, until it shows that it has that teeth, that oversight, that enforcement that it's kind of been promising, then I don't think it's going to scare or encourage or, get anyone to go along with it. So this is part of the balance where, all right, if the bagman comes back and schools or recruiting departments or whatever, boosters are working on their own and they're paying athletes under the table, how hard does the College Sports Commission want to go out and find that and ding someone for it? Because then if you do, then yeah, maybe you're inviting a lawyer or an organization from the outside to say, hey, how are you limiting what, my client, my athlete can earn? And so it's kind of like there's some danger on both sides of this for everyone, when really those that made it are kind of just hoping that everyone will get along and follow the rules. But we know from the history of college sports that doesn't always work that way.
Justin, we've got, people who watch this show are obviously diehard college football fans, because you're on YouTube watching college sports talk in the middle of the offseason, middle of the summer. But yesterday there was a report that came out on 3, was talking about Texas Tech and how they're going to spend like $55 million on athletics heading into next year. And there was a bunch of people like, well, what about the cap? Like, we just heard about this cap. Where's this coming from? Can you explain that they just basically got that in under this agreement, right? And then how does that work now moving forward? Because, yeah, you are paying a softball pitcher $1 million, and I could see where that adds up to 30, but it just doesn't seem like it's going to be that free and breezy and easy like it was prior. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so, this past offseason, really since the college football transfer portal in December, you've heard a lot about these front-loaded NIL deals. So basically, these collectives, before the settlement hit and before there's going to be this new oversight and trying to stamp out these old school collective deals, they were emptying the coffers, basically like, let's sign all these deals. And then, some schools are either going to also pay out their rev share money. Some of them are even going to kind of like hold on to it. So, hey, we paid our 2025 roster with these front loaded deals. Now we're going to save our rev share until the transfer portal opens again in December or something like that. So a lot of kind of creative or, using loopholes, however you want to put it, is going on right now. And that's why you saw reports of, Texas Tech. I think there was reports that the Texas football team could, be worth up $40 million this year or something like that. The thing that's interesting is, all right, now let's go ahead to 2026, where allegedly you will not be able to have these front-loaded deals. So you're going to go to that $20.5 million cap that covers everything. So for football, at most maybe $15 million. We just heard that Ohio State won the national championship last year. Their AD publicly said that the football roster was worth about $20 million in NIL. Do we really expect that some of these rosters, some of these athletic departments are actually going to cost less next year and the year after than they did last year and this year? That's where I think you get into kind of this, it's really odd or hard to accept that some of these dollar figures are going to start going backwards because of the settlement. And that's where you get into the over the cap deals or the under the table payments. And so I'm with you. Yeah, the numbers might be overinflated this year because of that, front-loaded NIL deals, but do we really believe that they're going to start going backwards next year? I don't know.
How many? Go ahead, Craig. You had go ahead, Paul.
Chris Vanini brought this up the other day, and I'm sure you saw it. How do you feel about, or what do you think about the potential of it was described as tanking. It's not really tanking, but the decision that, okay, you've got $15 million to spend on your football roster, school to school max. Now, not everybody's going to do that, but say you are Michigan State and you can't get the quarterback that you want, you've got more holes than you can fill, and you just decide, look, damn the torpedoes, we're going to it's $20 million for the year, not $20 million per semester. So you can roll some money over and technically have a $25 million roster next year if you do it the right way, because you couldn't get what you wanted and then just go heavy in the December portal.
Yeah, I wrote about this in my piece over the weekend. Obviously it hasn't happened yet, but this is something that people in the industry are talking about, as basically kind of rev share manipulation or cap manipulation. So yeah, if say, you have some injuries or you just miss on a couple positions and you feel like your team's not going to be competitive this year, maybe your coach is in a secure spot and the staff feels good and you're like, all right, we're not going to go all out this year. We're going to see how we do, but maybe we just save a little bit more than we were planning to. So we have a little bit extra when the transfer portal opens or in, high school recruiting for next year. So we can make a little bit bigger of a splash. Or honestly, like the kind of, I don't know, even less palatable version of this is there's starting to be these GMs that are hired that are on the same level as the head coach, or maybe even above the head coach, like Andrew Luck firing the coach at Stanford. So what if you're a GM and your coach is on the hot seat and you feel like he's not going to win this year? Do you withhold some of that NIL money to make a bigger splash in the portal and maybe even be more attractive to the next coach you hire? Because you're like, hey coach, we're fully loaded with our rev share money for next season. That's not stuff that I like to talk about or think about. I don't think fans want to even entertain that, but we see it in professional sports where the money's involved and teams are looking forward to next year and the draft and free agency and things like that. I think it would be a little naive, as maybe as gross or disappointing as it seems, to think that something like that can't happen at some point under this settlement.
If these things are going to be known, then don't Athletic, ESPN, whoever, don't you guys start doing like a salary cap figure? And here's who's spending what? Some schools would see, my example is Texas Tech has obviously been ahead of the curve. They are not afraid to go out and say, damn it, we have to compete. This is what we're going to do. And they're very proud of that. And yet sometimes they can get sensitive when you bring it up. My question is, why not, right? Make this public and let everyone see what's going on.
I would love that. I would love if everyone made it public. And you have seen some schools, I think Texas Tech being one of them, that has been, pretty explicit in terms of here's what we're going to designate for this sport or for this sport. The problem, it goes back to everything in college sports and in coaching and recruiting. Everyone's so secretive. Everyone feels like they don't want to give out an advantage. And so if you're a football program in your conference and maybe your men's basketball program or your women's basketball program is getting a little bit more, and so you have a little bit less, you don't want that out there, because then the teams in your conference you're recruiting against can be like, hey, don't go to school X. They're not even spending as much on football as we are. So it's still going to be really proprietary, I think. I don't know how many schools are going to want to be open and out there about how they're distributing the money. Because again, they view that it could be something that could be used against them on the recruiting trail.
Do you think this is headed towards where you like in the NFL, where everybody knows what your salary cap is and what you are spending on players, and that's not necessarily a bad thing?
Yeah, look, we keep talking about these under the table deals or over the cap. Honestly, those are probably going to be for kind of the top echelon of programs, the ones that were always spending the most, in the previous area. You're talking about Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, these schools that have traditionally had the highest budgets and the most resources. For the most part, even in the power conferences, they're trying to find where that $20.5 million is going to come from. And so I think generally, especially in a conference like the Big 12, where everyone's kind of on pretty even footing, maybe you have like a Texas Tech that's out there spending a little bit more, but you have a pretty good idea of all right, the other teams in this conference, they're spending around $15 million. And you probably, if you're recruiting similar players, you probably have a pretty good idea of what they're paying their quarterback or their star defensive end. And so you might have, whether it's kind of like a salary ladder, or you can't call it salary obviously, but revenue sharing kind of slots that you feel like players go in. But then I also think you're going to find these schools that find the inefficiencies, right? Or they find the best practices, whether you're moneyballing a team or whether you're realizing, hey, if we spend a little bit more money in our high school recruiting, maybe we can be better off, as opposed to try and go out in the portal. So just like with NIL and the transfer portal, I do think it's going to take a couple years for schools to kind of figure out what works best for them, or maybe what can help them be most competitive. And honestly, I think that'll be really interesting to kind of see and track from a media perspective, is what different schools do and how it works out on the field.
When you look at the 16 teams in the conference, and Justin, you covered Cincinnati for quite some time. Of course, they had the really nice run into the semifinals and where they are. Where do you, if we look like at a tier, this is just overall a thought, where we know where Arizona State was dead last year in the preseason poll and they won it, and that's happened in the Big 12 before. But where do you think Cincinnati is in trying to find their spot? Are they closer to maybe moving up a notch, or are they kind of in a little bit of a treading water?
It feels maybe, especially in football, that they're treading water. And part of that is, historically Cincinnati was always a men's basketball program, right?
Mm-hmm.
With Bob Huggins and Mick Cronin. And, that's part of the fan base and the DNA of Cincinnati athletics. So you wonder, are they going to have to give a little bit more to men's basketball? Something with like Kansas, Kansas basketball, you have to think if any program is going to get a little bit more money, you're talking Kentucky men's basketball, North Carolina, Kansas. Is that then going to hurt your football program a little bit? We're not talking about huge differences in money, but if everyone else in the conference is spending $14 million and one school has $12 million or $11 million or something like that, it's going to make it that much tougher to kind of keep up. And so Cincinnati, I do think they're pretty well positioned for all the reasons they have been. They're in a big city. They have a good amount of history, but in the Big 12 where everyone's on pretty even footing, it's now a little bit harder, I feel like, to find those edges, to maybe get around a corner or find a competitive advantage in a way that potentially Texas Tech has found. They've done it off the field. We haven't necessarily seen the results on the field, but I think you're seeing which schools are maybe going to try and find a little bit of a competitive advantage in the Big 12. And I'm not sure that Cincinnati, I don't think they're at the bottom, but I don't know they're at the top either.
You wrote an article on June the 7th last week. Even after House versus NCAA settlement, college sports remains broken, but what else is new? Is it less broken now that the approval has come?
It's a good question. I kind of think the approval, whether you like it or don't, or agree with it or don't, I actually think it's just kind of like a way station. This isn't the big hard reset that we're moving to. I'm not sure what that'll look like, whether it's football breaking off or these super league things that we're talking about, or maybe it's Congress at some point stepping in and laying down federal legislation that, puts the settlement terms in stone. But even the most ardent supporters of the settlement have acknowledged, like, this is not the end. This is kind of a step that had to be taken. It needed to move forward, but there are still other steps that need to be taken. And so for me, the settlement is something that the NCAA and the power conferences, they had to do. One, because they were at risk of losing more high profile cases in court, and that would have been financially very tough for them, but also like they needed to kind of move forward in this NIL era, but this isn't the end of it. And so I think I don't even know if we get to the end of this 10-year run of the settlement, but the next 5 to 10 years, I think, are going to determine, is football breaking off and basically becoming its own minor league professional sport? And how does that impact everyone else? Is one of these super leagues where all of the FBS football programs kind of get wrapped up into it. We talked about Texas Tech. Cody Campbell's been mentioned as part of this potential presidential commission. Does that happen? Does some kind of super league come in and invest a bunch of private equity? I'm not sure, but this to me is kind of like a necessary but not final step to whatever that looks like.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate your time, Justin, for being on the show from theathletic.com. Does a great job. That article up, and others. I even mentioned the one from June the 7th. We appreciate his time. We mentioned the College Baseball World Series at the start of the show after we kind of caught up on a few things. 8 teams. Arizona. I actually saw an image, Garrett. I don't think I sent this to you, but I had the 8 teams up, and then we mentioned the conferences, 7 of them, the SEC with 2, where somebody actually put up the conferences and said Pac-12 3 because of Oregon State, UCLA, and Arizona. Of course, the Wildcats. Jason Scheer will discuss that and their trip, where they are, and this is 365 Sports. Don Chumidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco. I went by there midweek last week before I went on vacation. Dropped by to say hi to Joshua and also to Cheyenne. They've got a hell of an event coming up this week. I'm going to get it to you in just a second, where they're going to have some cigar brands at their location. They'll have a taco truck, a food truck available too. It's the Lone Star Cut and Light. That's coming up on June the 12th, so that is on Thursday. From 5 until 8, they're inside the Town West Shopping Center in between Valley Mills and Richland Drive in Waco. They'll have a taco truck, Bear Arms Brewery, reps from McAuliffe, Mayfin, and Roma Craft, which are Texas brand cigars, and they're going to have a good time. Hope you can go by and see what they have, a 48-foot walk-in humidor. It's Don Chumidor Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
Allen Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Allen Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
Jason Shear, Wildcat Authority. We brought this up earlier, Jason. That's good to see you, my man. By the way, Paul, you texted Jason, I think it was sometime yesterday. He did a very unselfish act and gave his daughter his cell phone for most of the entire day and never saw your text.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I'm glad to know that, because it really, it felt like all of a sudden we have you on the very next day. It's like, well, I'm not going to say yes to Paul.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
But smoky ass, I'll do it.
Hey, what's that bag? Is that a lunch somewhere? You and Andy, Brian, 316, you and Iron Mike, Luke? Were you guys?
Yeah, we have the AZ12 podcast. One of our sponsors is this place called Baggett, and it's a great sandwich place here. Only in Tucson. There's one in Phoenix, but it's become like a running theme. Whenever someone goes, they have to send us a picture.
Well, we just gave them some extra pub for you, so you can tell them that they got some pub throughout the country with us too. All right, so Arizona, we brought this up. Of the teams that have joined the Big 12, Houston, of course, in men's basketball, we know what they've done. But these 2 Arizona schools, Arizona now with what they did in basketball, but now baseball, and then Arizona State in football have given the Big 12 a nice little juice, a little adrenaline rush.
Yeah, and it's been fun. You know, in Big 12 baseball, while different, very competitive, and you know, the Big 12 regular season, the conference tournament was really fun, and I think if anything, it's lifted up these Arizona schools, and that was a big concern. Whenever you join I should say whenever, it's not like it happens often, but when you join a new conference, you want to make sure you're competitive, and I think both Arizona schools have done a nice job of that for the most part.
Do you feel that they came out of nowhere a little bit, or was this maybe a little bit more expected by everyone in Tucson, but nobody anywhere else?
With baseball, it's interesting because they're out of conference schedule. Chip Hale's philosophy on that is basically to schedule as hard as possible. And they had a very difficult out of conference schedule. And towards the end of the season, they lost 2 of 3 to Utah, and they weren't playing well. And we were wondering if they were, even gonna, if they kind of went downhill. There were people that were wondering if they were even going to make the postseason. And all of a sudden, they turned it back on. They won the conference tournament, and this is the Arizona team that I think most people expected during this season, because it's a very well-built team. There's weaknesses, of course, but I think people around the program, this is kind of what they expected to see all season.
So they are no strangers to Omaha. I mean, they were there just 4 years ago. They've been there, 5 times since 2000. So a pretty regular trip for them, actually. But what does this mean to be going in 2025? Do you feel like for the program, for the fan base?
It means a lot because, Chip Hale, there's been some good Arizona teams under Chip, and they've hosted, and they couldn't get to a super regional. They've had some very, very disappointing postseason appearances, and there's some skepticism. And to be back in Omaha is a very big deal because this, like you mentioned, Arizona has a rich baseball tradition. Like, it feels like Arizona belongs in Omaha. They've won 4 national titles. They've done, well recently. So it's been nice in the community. You could tell that Arizona fans are really excited about this and really supportive. And it's kind of like, basketball and football are always going to be the big sports, but this is a baseball town. Arizona overall as a state is very baseball oriented. So when this happens, there's a ton of excitement going around the university.
I was looking at their schedule you brought up, and these teams were all a part of the tournament. Ole Miss, Clemson, Louisville, A&M. I mean, they were ranked. They weren't a part of the tournament. They didn't make it in, but we know where they were early in the year. Mississippi State, I know they changed their – Tennessee, plus the schools in the Big 12. They are very much battle-tested. What is more of a rivalry, Arizona State, Arizona in football, men's basketball, or baseball?
I would say football, probably. Basketball, it's really not. I would say, the conference changes stuff, but with basketball, like, to me at least, when they were in the same conference, UCLA was the bigger rival than ASU, just because of history and all that. Baseball is very close. When you go with the postseason numbers and all that, they're neck and neck. But football, I think it's a level of hate. Like, when the football teams play, it's just a different kind of hate and dislike between the two fan bases. Basketball, it's kind of accepted Arizona's better. Baseball's pretty even. It might vary year to year, but football, it's just a different level of animosity when they play.
What do you think about their matchup early on in the College World Series? And given the fact that they bounced back from an absolute shellacking on Friday to beat a team that a lot of people I thought that North Carolina was going to win the dang thing because of their pitching was so good. Are they playing as confident as you possibly can and with short memories? Because that Friday thing could have broken most teams.
Yeah, I mean, I thought North Carolina was the best team in the country and I did not expect Arizona to go to Chapel Hill and beat UNC, and then they lose 18-2 in the first game. And while you're not expecting it to be that bad, you're like, okay, yeah, North Carolina's really good. I think the thing with Arizona is they don't give up, and we saw it this past weekend. The culture that Chip Hale has built there is extremely impressive, and they could have, things look down in that last game too. And if the North Carolina second baseman doesn't make the error, they may wind up going on to lose that game. But they've always believed under Chip, and they've had some major comebacks this season. They're a confident team, but they're loose. And you'll see it on TV if you guys haven't before. They do a thing where they introduce a toy before the game, and the best player of the game in a win will get that toy, and they love it. They go nuts for it. You'll see them wearing it, and even Chip Hale doesn't know where it started, but they have bananas in the dugout, and they're goofing off, and they're doing rally hats with bananas and stuff like that. So they're confident, but they're loose. And I think that's key, is the fact that they're still having fun with the game of baseball. And they're underdogs again. They were underdogs in Eugene. They won it. They were underdogs in North Carolina. They won it. And they'll be underdogs against Coastal. And it doesn't faze them at all.
I guess the most important question, Jason, is how will Arizona fans stack up in the Jello shot competition in Omaha?
Look, I don't know if they could beat Arkansas and LSU.
Yeah.
That's a different – but it's funny. I saw there was a website that had betting odds on it.
Oh,
and
wow.
Arizona was 4th And, we're looking for a top 3 finish, but I have a bunch of friends that are going, and they've been retweeting and said we can't get embarrassed. And Arizona fans can drink. I don't know if it's the same as the LSU and Arkansas of the world, but I think Arizona's gonna make a strong showing.
Hey, I want another question, and we might get into a couple of football questions too before we let you go. I was asking about competition between Arizona and ASU. What about in golf? I mean, there's a rich history between those two programs. But Paxton wanted me to ask you that question.
Yeah, I mean, Arizona schools, that's another thing. Like, golf is very big here. ASU's had a ton of success. Arizona has national championships with women's golf as well. It's fun. I mean, it really is. That's another one where both teams are obviously really well coached, and there's a long history there. And again, like, I know the focus is often on the major sports, but the Olympic sports at Arizona have a very rich tradition, and ASU as well. And it's a big deal here.
Jason, what do you think about the tournament and coming to Arizona?
I love it. I mean, I wish it was in Tucson, but I love it. I like it a lot. I like it moving. I didn't go to the one in Globe Life. I've heard great things about Globe Life. I would absolutely go in the one in Surprise. It's a great facility up there. You wonder about the heat, but it's exciting. And again, it's different. Like new teams in the Big 12, you move things around, and it'll be fun. I'm excited to get out there.
We have been to Surprise Stadium many times, covering the Rangers at training camp when we used to go cover it there, and it is a gorgeous facility. Yeah. The dual roles of both the Royals and the Rangers, the facilities are phenomenal. It's kind of on the northwest side of Phoenix too, right? Where it's a little more, it's crowded, but it's not as condensed or not.
Yeah, it's different. It's different. It's different than Phoenix. It's a little bit calmer, but like you mentioned, it's not as condensed. I like Surprise. There's so many towns and cities on the outskirts of Phoenix that maybe aren't as busy as Phoenix or Tempe where ASU is, but really nice facility, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
So football, we have Big 12 Media Days in early July, the 8th and the 9th, so we've got a little bit of time for that.
But a month, basically, a month away.
It's almost like I said, I have anxiety thinking about it, but I look forward to it because we have a great access, and we'll be there for full days, both days. So where are they? We've talked to you back during spring when it ended, but anything that has changed, any kind of direction or thought process on where they are with the football program?
There's confidence internally. I'm of the belief you got to see it to believe it, because they were bad last year. I would expect that media day they're going to be picked to finish last or second to last. It's probably Arizona and West Virginia is my guess. But, I will say that and people know him out there in Texas, Seth Doege it's a whole different attitude on offense. And last year, Arizona had no idea what they were doing on offense, no philosophy, no identity. It was bad. I mean, I can't stress enough just how lost the offense looked. Seth Doege knows exactly what he wants to do. He has a certain confidence about him and how he operates. And so there's confidence that the offense will be better. They still have weapons. The offensive line is kind of a bit of a question, but the skill positions are good. The expectation is Noah Fifita will bounce back. I'll say this: the coaching staff believes that they're going to surprise people. And when I talk to them, I don't think it's BS. I don't think it's fake confidence. I really, truly, from what I gather, this coaching staff, while they don't think they're going to win the national title or anything, they believe that they're going to surprise people based on expectations that were built last year.
Jason, thank you very much. Can't wait to see. Are you going to be in Frisco, or are you going to make that trip, or going to cover it from afar?
I'm probably going to cover it from afar, but we'll see.
All right, buddy. We'll see you. We'll see you down the road. Thank you so much for all your knowledge and time. That's Jason Scheer with us, Wildcat Authority, the Wildcats, Arizona, as they open up against Coastal Carolina in the Baseball World Series in Omaha.
Well, the good news is they get picked to finish last. Congrats on your football Big 12 championship, Arizona, if that's the case, based on a year ago. That's not a bad place to be in, and I don't think anybody will look at those polls and I'm sure coaches will use them as motivation because coaches use like nothing to try and motivate guys. Mm-hmm. But certainly I don't think anybody's going to really take those polls all that serious this year based off of how last year went, and I can't blame them for that. But, yeah, I think it's only fair to have them towards the bottom. I don't know any reason why you would have them higher than that at this point in time. But if Fifita can bounce back and they can overcome the loss of a guy like Teteroa McMillan and others, then maybe they can sneak up and surprise some people. Lord knows Brent Brennan needs to, because otherwise he's suddenly sweating a little bit more than he already is. But the baseball stuff is great. They were obviously very solid in basketball and should always be solid in basketball, but good to have them in the league. It's been fun to cover these new teams the last couple of years, and I guess 3 or 4 years now at this point. But Arizona, I think Arizona State, obviously, a BYU, Colorado. I mean, pretty much everybody's carried their weight so far, and I think there's a couple that are trying to figure things out still. And then there's one that's just a big old disappointment based on their own expectations in Utah. But I have all of that to say, I have no idea what to expect in football this year based on just how equal everyone is. And so I'm excited to kind of start getting into those conversations and actually get into these games, obviously, because that's why we're doing this. We don't love talking about the offseason. We love talking about the games, obviously. So just the fact that it's getting closer has got me excited, and the Big 12 is anybody's call, and that's what's fun about it.
Yeah, it is a crapshoot. Garrett, if I asked you right now to reel off 1 through 16 Big 12 football, how long would you go? Damn. Man, hold on. Wait a minute.
How long would it take you to remember all 16 off the top of your head?
I can remember them, but like reeling it off, I would need a good 10 minutes to at least chew on it and not look like a complete fool.
I'd question myself about every other prediction.
All right, let me ask you all this right now, and we can change before next month. Who's your Big 12 champion?
No, why do you have to
on
put
your
me
preseason
on the spot?
poll?
I'm going to have to say Arizona State with the quarterback back, and even I know Scadaboo's the motor, but I'm going to probably go down that old man rabbit hole and go with who's the defending champion. And I still think they have a lot more back just because Scadaboo left. They're still good.
If I had to pick right now,
gun to your head question. We can always change this.
I'm going to say Texas Tech.
Okay,
I'm picking Tech. You're pick
buying
Tech
in,
right.
huh?
I'll pick Tech right now.
Is that because Kim's mad?
No. Was he mad?
No,
I don't know.
He's a little upset with me as always. But we love each other. We're good friends.
Again, he won't be mad at me right now. I'm picking Texas Tech. By the way, Lubbock, 2025, our 7th rated market. So
it might drop.
Yeah, not now.
No,
I mean you've got a pro Tech advocate here all of a sudden.
No, I think they're right. Number 5 for us. Greg, what about you?
I think I'm going to Iowa State right now. And I, like I said, I think this can change, but I had them pretty high up last year. And I remember a guy I used to co-host podcasts with just did not like Iowa State. Always felt like they were just kind of like full of it and bragging over, little success or whatever. And it's like, man, they're pretty solid every year. Like every year they're in the mix. And I think I go with them. Not only because they were, I know the wide receivers losing those guys is a big deal. Like, I'm not trying to overlook that by any means, but you do have your quarterback back. I'm not going to get into the whole spiel on it, but just off the top of my head and not trying to go the popular route of like, oh yeah, Arizona State. That's the logical choice. I think if you go there, it's a pretty safe bet, but we'll see where I am next month in Arlington when I actually dive into it a little bit deeper and I'm not trying to maybe be a little bit different. Garrett, do you have anybody in mind?
Off the top, if I had to pick right now, I'd probably go K-State. I really like Avery Johnson. I've been waiting for him to finally click and take him to that next level. And if he can't do it this year, then I don't see him being able to do it. So I'd ride with the Wildcats.
Yeah, and for the clicks out there, hey, BYU, I pick you.
Oh.
Hi, BYU.
Hey,
I'm going with the Cougars. I changed my mind.
Salt Lake City, and a lot of it because of conference realignment and then the coverage of who we have, what we cover, is our 4th highest viewed market. 4th highest viewed market. A lot of that has to do with BYU, and of course, a ton of it also has to do with the fact that the Utah Utes are a part of the conference and the coverage we've given them too.
Is this ESPN PR hour? What are we doing here with all these markets?
Well, I just asked Paul.
Somebody
asked me.
I was like, we're citing off market numbers like it's just like what we typically do, and I don't think that we've ever done that really. But
I just looked to see it asked what the ones were in it. And Lubbock, took a jump. I mean, took a jump.
Well, I just got news in. It's sliding again because of recent. No, I don't think we've even said anything bad today. I don't know why. I don't even care. I don't even care.
It's fine.
But yeah, BYU would be a really solid choice. I don't think the Jake Retzlaff thing changes them immensely, But you can see where that's leaving you a little bit hesitant. And obviously it should, with that very much up in the air right now. So if you had a little bit more, I think, a surefire bet, like, yeah, he's the starting quarterback, it'd be easier. But with that sort of in limbo, it's kind of like, I need that to figure itself out before I know really how deep to go with the Cougars there. And yeah, I mean, you could name, I mean, Baylor, nobody mentioned them. I know they've got TCU. There's a lot of teams that'll be in the mix. That's why it'll be fun.
That's why it's a fun conference, and if everyone would embrace how you never know, it's to me, that's the strength of the conference, is that you don't know. If there was a blue blood or two, maybe there's one that's percolating. We don't know.
You know what? Utah could jump up and win the conference this year. Yeah. They're going to have a good defense. They got a new quarterback. We're not going to play the is he hurt game every week, knock on wood, hopefully. I know they don't have like a bunch of like sexy names in terms of skill guys that pop off, the headlines or anything, but there could be a lot of crow eating this year if they turn it around, man.
Yeah, as much as they came bursting through the door, and again, fans are all going to be excited or whatever, but I think I had Utah as 2. I think I had Kansas State winning the conference. That's on record. I don't remember for sure, but I thought I had 1 and 2, K-State, and then perhaps the Utes and Kyle Whittingham. All right, when we come back, Craig Smoak off the radar. Former I forgot what I was going to say. I just went blank on promoting somebody. Craig Smoak and off the radar. We have Scott Drew one-on-one. What a year. What a spring it has been. Basically retooled the entire roster. They're not the only one, but it was quite the chore. Have him on to discuss that and the new rules in college athletics. Plus, we have Paul's Top 5, and Andrew Valade will join us today with the poll results. And we check in with Purdue, our good friend Barry Odom, the head coach there, and their 2025 schedule. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Fastest growing pizza brand in America, Marco's Pizza. Go to marcos.com for more information, and you can find so many great deals that are online, or you can even order online and then go pick up yourself. Of course, they get delivered. I've had Marcos delivered to where I live over off Lake Waco, and it's always hot, steamy, and delicious. Right now, Flavor Kick. They have Karate Kid Legends X Marcos Pizza. $9.99 for the large pepperoni magnifico. You can use the code word LEGENDS. Order now, get it, and pick it up. Also, much, much more, including Marco's new More menu. Add items starting at $5 each if you order online and use the code word More menu. For example, you have your pizza, whatever size, thin crust, regular crust, whatever, and you add ingredients, $5 per ingredient. They have that available. Lunch special, if you want something quick and easy, any Pizzoli and a 20-ounce bottle of Pepsi, $7.99. Order that with the code word of lunch. And then my favorite, the triple pepperoni Magnifico. Now, really, my favorite is the triple pepperoni and Italian sausage Magnifico. That's always available. You want pizza? Fastest growing pizza brand in America, Bob Mock, with 5 locations: Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, Robinson, and also Hewitt. It's Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Car Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
Welcome back into Off the Radar, 365 Sports, where we're now doing Off the Radar, the segment that you will see Tuesdays and Thursdays at around 4:45 Central Time. And then, of course, after the fact, whenever the hell you want on YouTube. But got a few things here to talk about today, and we'll start off with a little bit of ratings. And I know that I said earlier in the show, for those that may pick up on that, of like, thought you didn't care about TV ratings. I don't care about TV ratings for College Game Day. I don't care about TV ratings and like the in the way that I feel like that should make decisions for you, right? Like, we need to do this because of the TV rating. I don't care about TV ratings in that way, but I do find them interesting to look at when they come out, depending on what sport and event we're discussing. And so in this case, we spent a lot of time yesterday talking about the conclusion of the Women's College World Series and Texas taking home the softball national championship for the first time in school history, beating Texas Tech in 3 games. Well, got the numbers in, and 2.4 million viewers, the total for Game 3, UT's win over Texas Tech, the most watched softball game on ESPN ever. Which I don't think that's actually a surprise. I don't know what your expectations would have been beforehand, but this was definitely what I felt like the most talked about. Granted, biased because I'm right here in between those 2 schools, basically. So I figured I'm going to hear more about it. But I think the whole Najee Kennedy storyline and her being this, golden goose $1 million arm and this superstar, and then big bad Texas and whatever, I figured there was going to be some good ratings for this, and 2.4 million. So it trumps those first couple games that just crossed over the 2 million threshold, and it's the most watched ESPN softball game ever. So that's awesome. Also, some attendance records were set during the course of the weekend as well. The average across the 15 games that they showed, and I know I'm doing their PR here, so 1.3 million on average, which beat 2021, which was the previous high. 2.4 for the championship game, which just edged 2007's Game 3 between Arizona and Tennessee, which had 2.3 million viewers. Games 1 and 2 with 2.1 million apiece were both both now new records as well. The highest rated non-championship game, well, I just mentioned Arizona, Tennessee from 2007 was the previous high. As far as the non-championship games this year, Tennessee, again, when they played UCLA, had 2.2 million viewers, best non-finals Women's College World Series game of all time.
That's right. You say Arizona? Did they have? When was Jenny Finch pitching for them?
That was back when I was in college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was 07. So I don't know her timeline.
Even before then.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, she was before then. I remember because
don't act like you're that young.
No, I know because she came to FSU and pitched. I was there. We didn't miss that one.
Yeah, she would have played. She would have played like in late '90s, early 2000s.
Well, Google will think can probably help out there. But finishing that thought on the softball, most attended World Series ever, which goes back to 1982, had nearly 120,000 people, an average of nearly 12,000 people per game. So. Point is, lots of new records, lots of big numbers, and lots of excitement around the game of softball. Like anything that pops up like this, you always wonder, like there's always going to be the crowd that's like, now we take this and we run with it. And I don't know if softball will or not, but I think Oklahoma's dynasty building up. Now you got Texas. Now you got a school like Texas Tech that's obviously interesting. You've got Tennessee in part pulling in big numbers. It's a good time to be a softball fan. I don't know if it leads to some new boom or, it's like the Caitlin Clark effect type that you would want to see it expand, but just the way it is, very healthy and very good numbers and a good spotlight for all the teams involved.
Well, someone that's a part of Rogue Media Network, did they not send us a note about how, is it Major League Baseball that's now going to support softball, a pro sports league? Which
USL, yeah. So I think also like part of the problem that we want with women's sports is we want them to have these big chunks of ratings that last over time. But if you look at the trajectory of things, it's going to take a little time to build that up. The fact that they can do it now means that it's not impossible. They just need to sustain close to the numbers they get when they have these big events and grow and get more popular as more women start watching women's sports. I mean, that's the biggest key
I've known you for too long, but one of the things you always used to say about women's basketball, there were some events that, yes, they would have crowds, the Final Four, whatever. But one of the biggest problems was that the women themselves, the numbers attending women's sports were low.
Yeah. Empty seats or unviewed sporting events, no gender. I mean, it's everybody who's doing it. And, I think a part of this, and, I learned a lot when I had Sarah Spain on to the Super Bowl about, she feels that and she was right. There's nobody out there telling the story of the game of women's sports like they are men's sports. So it's just for a lot of people who are casual sports fans or casual fans, they're like, well, I should watch this game. Why? And once they know the story, maybe it's more interesting. There's not as much reporting on it. So as that grows, then interest will grow. And getting women, especially to get fired up about their own sports, is a big thing. And that will happen over time if they do it the right way. That's going to be the big key,
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, if it leads to some boom or anything like that, but clearly getting a pro softball league going and having partners already lined up and having a very nice TV rating, which is the point here, is obviously it's a good thing to celebrate for the game and a good way for the season to end with a big monster rating and some new records in the record books as far as the tournament there in Oklahoma City. So they've got momentum in softball right now, and Texas takes it home. So there you go, a little over 2 million watching that last one. Meanwhile, there is no game tonight, but last night we did see the Stanley Cup Finals. Is this thing over already? Because it sure as hell feels like it, man. I mean, Florida wins last night over Edmonton 6-1 to take a 2-1 series lead. And Florida looking pretty nice now. Obviously, this thing is a little bit of a ways to go, but had a really competitive matchup on Friday night, double overtime. Florida wins 5-4, steals a game in Edmonton, and now back home last night just puts the gloves on them and leaves no doubt about it. Edmonton took game one in a very tight overtime contest as well. So we went from a couple of OT games down to the wire to going down to the Sunshine State, and Florida just stomping all over the Oilers there. So, Garrett, any thoughts on last night and what that means moving forward?
No, I mean, that's to be expected. Like going back when the series was initially announced and we were talking about this, I said that I didn't think Edmonton would be able to get a win in Florida and how important it was for them to finally figure out a way to squeak out that win in the initial game up there. Because when Florida went after during the trade deadline and they added Brad Marchand, that was the difference right there. Like he was the exclamation point to take them to another level. And then if you look at Edmonton, the injury that Hyman suffered against Dallas, where he missed the last game against them, was significant as that carried over right now. But Florida's just playing on a different level with their intensity. You saw the big fight that broke out last night, which was building from Connor McDavid getting the shot there. But I don't think Edmonton has what it takes to hang with Florida, especially down there. And I honestly don't see. I had them going 7. I don't know if this even lasts 7 games, man.
Yeah, but last night, I mean, you wouldn't be surprised if Florida wins the next 2 and just puts this one to bed. And Canada's streak continues.
Yeah, last night Florida really got into Edmonton's head, like they really did. And a lot of times when the star of the team gets waylaid. I mean, Connor McDavid got hit as hard as I've seen. Because usually they're always kind of protected. They might get a little shot here and there, but he got absolutely, and it was just the perfect moment, and he got waylaid. And then Florida doubled down on if we do it, we're going to do it again and again and again. And then little fight started. And then with less than 10 minutes left, I mean, it was all out brawl.
Well,
and so and that was Florida just kind of imposing their will, and they got in Edmonton's heads. And Edmonton's was supposed to be the team that is kind of above it all. That's what they do. But man, the Panthers just muddied the water so much last night.
Yeah, if you see, I guess she won't be on the broadcast, but Katie Engelson, talk about she was in Waco. She was originally from Florida, but there's a lot of reporters that make their way through here that go off and go do other things eventually. And she left here to go to Florida and basically cover the Panthers. And shoot, man, talk about timing. They're about to win another Stanley Cup, probably just won it last year. And I mean, they've been on this run. So I always think of her and connect her because that's our connection basically to the Florida Panthers. And so, she does a great job. And I've thought about that. What a time to be down there and be covering a team right at the best moment possible. So still at least 2 games left and they are remaining in Florida for one more. That'll be coming up on Thursday night, Florida Edmonton game 4. So there you have that. Meanwhile,
let me ask you a question. OU, Craig, you obviously like Oklahoma. The softball team got knocked out after 4 straight. Paul, FSU on the edge of getting to the College World Series. You call it the curse. They're out. Garrett, the Stars, are they out? Emory still has Garrett.
Yeah, Stars are out.
Oklahoma City with Emory. That's the only one left. I don't have a team that was really involved in anything because my team sucked.
You're saying in general sports right now? Is that what you're saying?
Just kind of throwing it out there.
Okay.
I was just saying, Emory, he's kind of the only one left.
Only one of us gets to experience joy at a time.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it feels. So it's Emory's turn.
So
with
it's
Oklahoma
Emory's
City.
turn, and they it's all even,
Man, we need to start picking better. All of our teams have a great history. I'm sorry, Craig. I just wanted to bring that up, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yep. So good luck to Emory, unless we just cursed that as well. But NBA has invited 13 prospects to the green room for the upcoming draft that will be taking place here in a few weeks. And this is not the final list. There will be another 11 names that are added to this list in the future. But for right now, do have 13 invites for the green room, according to Jonathan Giovanni of ESPN. And those 13 include Cooper Flagg of Duke. No surprise, he'll be the number 1 overall pick to the Dallas Mavericks. Their Luka replacement, although not exactly. I mean, that's basically keeping a rooting interest in the franchise for the foreseeable future is what that does, bare minimum. But Duke's Cooper Flagg obviously will be there. The Rutgers duo of Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, both invited. Baylor's VJ Edgecombe headed to the green room. Scott Drew might as well book a seat there.
What's that, 5 years in a row now?
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to be 6. Or do they have somebody I'm not thinking of for next year with this retooled roster? Do they have a big star next year?
They have a young star that's coming in. Remember, we had him on from the West Coast. But no, it appears as if, well, he's about to talk about that.
Well, I don't
probably
remember.
not. I would say no.
Yesifu is his name.
Yes, I'm not super dialed in on all that, so I defer to you guys. But they've had a nice run, is the point, and he will be back in the green room for what is like a 5th year in a row, or 4 out of the last 5, whatever it's been. BJ Edgecombe there, Trey Johnson of Texas. Duke will be busy as they'll have 3 representatives, not only the number 1 overall pick in Cooper Flagg, but Kamen Maluak, also Jeremiah Fears of Oklahoma, Con Knipple of Duke, Kasparis Jakacionis of Illinois. No, I butchered that.
Fran Fraschilla could say his name.
Igor Demon from BYU, we know him. Carter Bryant of Arizona, we know him. Maryland's Derek Queen and Georgia's Asa Newell is the list so far that have been invited. So from a Big 12 perspective, you got close to it. You got 3 guys. So I was going to say close to a handful, but 3 guys there, 1 each from Baylor, BYU, Arizona, and obviously there will be more added, as I mentioned as well. Another 10+ names that will join the festivities in the green room. That's got to be pretty damn cool to be a part of the green room and be sitting there and taking all of that in. So there you go with that. Did you talk to Scott Drew about the NBA draft by any chance?
Well, he brought it up. He actually brought it up during an answer about the fact that they've had this streak.
Yeah.
And he basically, you're right, I think he has an Airbnb wherever the NBA draft is each year. And I don't think he might have to rent that out to somebody else next year at this time.
Yeah, I don't know what's on their docket, but he will be there here in a couple weeks is when that will take place. So there you go with that. Meanwhile, NBA finals have been interesting so far, very competitive, and we'll have to wait one more night for them to resume. But Oklahoma City and Indiana, game tied at 1 apiece. That'll be back tomorrow night. But a lot of negativity about the ratings. And I know I spoke before about how I don't care about it. Has that affected y'all? Like, have y'all not? Let me ask you this. Have you not watched because you don't care? Or have you watched? Or have you not watched because of the market sizes?
No, I've never. The market sizes, no matter the sport, have never affected whether I wanted to watch the Stanley Cup or the World Series, Super Bowl, and or NBA Finals. It just never. And I know why the networks would love to see New York and LA and, all of that. But no, it has never affected whether I watch a game. If I don't watch a game, it's because for whatever reason, I just can't at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, especially when it's the playoffs or the finals, if the finals in the NBA was a team from Grand Rapids, Michigan versus a team from rural Texas, if it was the finals, I'm going to watch it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not bummed out that the NBA or that ESPN may make a little bit less money on their advertising draw for next year,
right?
Because that's where they'll lose the money, not this year, but next. That at upfronts they have to be like, well, got kind of a smaller market NBA matchup, but the Knicks are getting better. They can say that. I don't care. I'm a fan of the sport.
There you go.
Right.
So,
I'm right there with you. I've just seen so much of that, and I know social media can kind of blizzard you with the negativity of certain things, but the bitching and moaning about that, and it's like you don't have to watch. And if you need that, I just think there's with a lot of things we're like so customized now. It's like if everything's not like the tippity top thing, it's not New York, LA, and everything. It's like, oh, well, this sucks. You know what I mean? Or it's not the Cowboys versus it's the biggest brands, which is what college football is going into. So I think for everybody that says this will never work, it's like that's what everything else is doing. And when it's not that, people complain about it. So it's not bringing in the casuals. The casuals, and much like the TV networks, do need, I guess, the pull of the Knicks or the Lakers, or they just have so many more fans is really what it is, that's what you're missing out on. But in terms of like being competitive and being interesting, I haven't found a problem with this. I think the bitching is just kind of way overdone. Meanwhile, just 1 or 2 more things here. The Warner Brothers Discovery split. We talked about this a little bit. I don't have a lot of thoughts on it, but the 2 companies after this big merger and this big to-do about the two companies getting together and then it just being kind of a mess, have now announced that they are splitting the companies into two. And that leaves a little bit of a question mark about what happens to TNT Sports in the big picture, as they've now lost the NBA and obviously have added some college football to their portfolio. But the big picture future is still very much confusing and not real clear. But the two companies will be split into one company called Streaming and Studios, which will consist of Warner Brothers Television, Warner Brothers Motion Picture Group, DC Studios, HBO, and HBO Max. The other company that it will split into will be dubbed Global Networks, and that will be everything else. Legacy networks, TNT Sports, digital products, free-to-air channels in Europe. So I don't know if Paul has a thought on this at all, but for all those thinking like Turner's going to go on, like I don't know that they even know what they can do right now, and they're still obviously reeling from losing the NBA. So that's just something to kind of keep track of, is where's the sports money being spent in these new ventures with this new split of this company, I guess is the best way to put it.
Can they do it? Do they do college football?
Yeah. Turner, I mean, they just got more of the playoffs.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, that was a huge deal. Yeah.
Yeah, so they'll get there. But this is a tweet I sent to Craig earlier because I knew that, at least in addendum to this was pretty interesting. So in 2022, there's a firm called McKinsey that is a consulting firm. This is why, Smokey, I keep telling you we need to do this. They paid $55 million to advise Warner Brothers to combine with Discovery. From 2022 to 2025, they charged Warner Brothers $37 million by advising the company to change HBO to HBO Max, then to Max, then back to HBO Max, which they just did a month ago.
I saw that.
In 2025, McKinsey billed Warner Brothers Discovery an additional $63 million to determine that Warner Brothers and Discovery should be separate brands again. So basically, it's
about $120 million, unless I missed something.
Yeah,
to just go in a circle.
Yeah,
$120 million to go back where they started.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, dude. I can't wrap my head around somebody being paid that amount of money just in general, but basically to not even change much of anything at all, or just to say, call it Max. Like that's a $20 million idea apparently, or even more than that. And I mentioned like the Big 12's got that arrangement through ESPN. They're not like a big TNT partner, but there's arrangement where ESPN gave them some games inside the NBA trade-off is where all that began. But what I will say is notable, and just to keep in mind when you're thinking about, well, the next TV deal and all these partners that you could possibly have, well, this throws Turner in a little bit of a who knows what they're going to actually do. And speaking of that, one of the things I saw most mentioned was when that Big 12 arrangement was announced, was like, oh, are the game's going to be on HBO Max? Well, according to, David Zaslav, he said U.S. sports haven't been a major driver of Max signups, and suggested it may make sense for TNT Sports to consciously uncouple with the streaming service down the road. So just saying, keep that in mind. It's not a foregone conclusion that Big 12 or whoever else will be airing on Max. They might not be a part of it based on this move, and there will obviously be other things that are different or that change from when it was just WB Discovery. So that's a story we'll keep eyes on for when it matters and how it matters, but there's a few things off the radar.
All right. That's a lot going on. And the market size is that's just kind of a default for those who, oh my God, it's not New York, LA, Chicago.
I get
Dallas,
if you're a Knicks
whatever.
fan, you don't care now. Like I do get that. And there's a lot more of those than there is of like a Thunder fan base probably. So,
sure.
I mean, that's where the drop in ratings is coming as well. But like even the media just bitching about, it's like, what do you want us to do? Do you want us just to arrange it? In college football, it's like, yeah, that's exactly what we want to do. Prearrange this. Yeah. But it can't be Lakers, Knicks every year. Yankees, Dodgers every year. But it's still good basketball.
I was listening to, who's the NHL commissioner? Gary
Bettman.
Yeah.
Gary Bettman. I was watching some of his in between the second and third period last night. And it was a little bit about like the Florida teams at one point, they all for like 15 to 18 years, they were terrible, whether it's the Florida Panthers or the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then for example, they started talking about, well, yeah, but they don't have state income tax. That was one of the reasons why now they're doing better.
That's a whole scam anyways. We get picked apart on everything else.
Yes.
That's why it doesn't
they're using that. Just watch the games. And Paul, I just retweeted your consulting firm comment, by the way.
I am going to open a consulting firm. And here's the thing. There's no restrictions because clearly I don't have to know crap about anything that you're asking me about.
Do? They tell you what you're doing wrong, even if your business is doing well and doing it right.
Yeah. So I'll come in and I promise to give you better ideas.
Well, clearly they did that with HBO because they're like, you should change it to Max. And then later on, they're like, you should change it back to HBO. I mean, that's.
And probably spent $30 to $40 million on fees for that.
We laid out how much they spent.
$37 million.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like $65 million this year, which is only halfway over, to tell them to do like, hey, you remember in 2022 when we told you that you needed to join together? That was a bad idea. We're going to charge you more now.
Yeah,
crazy. We're going to charge you more to change the idea that we gave you that was a bad idea. We got to break. We got to
drinking so much that they're like, I don't remember who said that. Yeah. It was you.
All right. When we come back, Scott Drew sitting down with him one-on-one. Do you have that graphic of Jeff Goodman, Garrett, that I sent to you?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'll pop it
So Jeff Goodman from the Field of 68 put up a list of the top 10 college basketball programs who had a bad offseason. And there you see it. Kansas and Baylor from the Big 12 and UCF in the top 10. Memphis at 1, they lost Haggerty among other schools. So there it is. We come back with this and more. The offseason for Baylor men's basketball, Scott Drew. And if they are the culture of joy, then why would they have to replace their entire roster in one offseason? That and more. Paul's top 5, Andrew's poll results, and we might get a sneak peek of Purdue football. This is 365 Sports.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved, learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Baylor National Championship basketball coach Scott Drew with me, David Smoak, 365 Sports. I don't even know where to start.
How about the roster?
I mean, it's like what you probably like. I don't even know where to. Okay, so when you have to replace basically everyone, is it about filling the roster, making sure you're multidimensional, making sure you guys are better on defense, or you can still fill it up and score points?
Yeah, great question. I think first and foremost, it starts with prayer. And second of all, God gives us people that he wants us to have. And that's people that are going to be bought in for preparing champions for life, spiritual, academic, character formation, athletic, and then people that are going to represent Baylor University, Waco, Central Texas. So you get the character right, you get the work ethic right, you get the heart right. And then generally what you do is you see where you're deficient, and then you try to make changes or adjustments. And I think last year you saw size and length probably hurt us at times, depth maybe at times. And we tried to address those, and we tried to bring in more size, more length, more depth. And we were able to do that. Now, hopefully we can blend everybody together, stay injury free, and go from there.
You have had the culture of joy. The book is behind me, in fact, on my shelf with a lot of collectibles that I have and a couple of remnants of the national championship game, my media credential, the culture of joy. And that's the way it is there. Well, if that's the case, how come all of a sudden everybody was gone? What is it? Just the way basketball and the NCAA and college sports is now?
Yeah, great question. I think back before NIL in the portal, full transparency, we didn't obviously have many people leave, and when we did, I mean, you failed as a coach like you failed them. And now there were always some situations where it was best because what they wanted we couldn't provide playing time opportunity wise, and you understand that. Other times it might have been a discipline situation where you had no choice, but players need to go. But truly, people that you wanted to stay, helped your program, those get you as a coach. Now with the portal, it's just more business involved. And what I mean by that is at the end of the day, everybody does not have unlimited resources. So you have to choose where and who to spend them with, as well as who you can help them maybe achieve what they want on the court wise. So I say all that to say, sometimes culture, joy, everyone that left, I can say our coaching staff enjoyed working with, and I think they enjoyed their time at Baylor. If you heard the coach or the players' interviews following our last loss, and to hear them talk, I think the Preparing Champions for Life we did a great job with, and I think the players all bought in with. Our team could have used more length, more depth last year, and obviously injuries affected us. But at the same time, moving forward, now you have agents involved, and if they want a certain amount for a certain to retain a player, you have a choice to make. Is it attainable, and do you spend money toward that? And you just have to make tougher choices.
You had to also change your staff a little bit, obviously, with Sanchez coming in from Virginia. What a great hire that was. Do you also think, we'll discuss him, that just the attrition of losing so many guys, coaches that are now head coaches elsewhere or second in command elsewhere, did that catch up with you a little bit? The positive of them getting jobs, but also the fact you had to change so many times in the last 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, I think definitely more stability in a coaching staff. you get deeper relationships with guys. And then when they leave, new assistants come in, you're starting over from scratch relationship wise. And just the way college basketball works, a head coach can't be there for everybody. That's why the staff is so important. And that does affect the program. That's why your best programs usually have more stability in the coaching ranks than not. And you look at, for a number of years, we would only have one coaching change, and that allowed the other assistants to really help the new coach out as well. And with so many changes in such a rapid period of time, definitely as a staff, I thought really enjoyed working with our staff. But will obviously be better year two than year one. Like any freshman, you expect to be better in year two, and you expect to be better in year three. And that's part of the downside of being a successful program. People want your guys, and when they get promoted, and most of them, their goals are to be head coaches. Similar to if a guy can be a first round guaranteed pick, most of them don't come back to college, and that's a promotion. To be in the NBA as a first round pick. And when you can be a head coach at a place that you want to go, that's a promotion, and most people go.
Scott, the overseas trips, you've done those before, and you've had great success, I believe, almost every Canada, et cetera. Is this year the overseas trip even more important than ever before because of such, my God, there's people coming from every angle, different players.
Yeah, I think definitely it's a huge advantage every year you have an overseas trip. And you say why? First, it's because you get more practice time allotted during those. If it's a foreign tour, it's 10 days. For us, basically, when we start tomorrow, we'll have a lot more practice time leading up to that trip than you would if you didn't have you weren't representing the USA in the university games. At the same time, one thing that does make it a little more challenging on a foreign tour, all your players play. In the university games, only your American passport players are able to play. So that doesn't give you as big advantage as you would have normally in a foreign tour where you get to play games with your whole roster. But definitely the practice time will be invaluable. Us having a chance to find out what this group does best, put them in positions to be successful, them getting a chance to learn one another. And then obviously being on a team, bonding is important. And there's no better place to bond than overseas where you take away some of the technology because of the time change and whatnot, and you just spend more time with each other.
You have the House settlement has been approved. Mac had some comments about that yesterday, and we know about the number. Do you have any input on the percentage that men's basketball will get, or is that kind of cut and dried?
The great thing is total faith in Mac and Linda and everyone running our university. So I let them do their job. They let me do my job. And I get to concentrate on basketball and let them focus on those decisions.
With the NIL and now whatever changes, I still don't get it all. And if I don't get it all, I mean, I don't know how anyone does. I don't even know if players understand the new rules or whatever, or coaches. Can you trust players the way you once did?
Well, I think trust is something that is all relative. And what I mean by that, the way the rules were prior to this House settlement, what you could raise, you could spend. And at the end of the day, I mean, if anybody working with you, we give 2 times, 3 times, 5 times the amount of money to, there's a chance they leave. If things stay even or close to even, they probably stay. And that's the great thing about Baylor is people don't want to leave Baylor. They appreciate Baylor. So with the House settlement, things become more standard. And if things are more even, I'm telling you, people are choosing Baylor. So we leaving. So my point is we're going to be winning recruiting battles because people value and respect what we have here.
I'm sorry. A lot of the players that you brought in, the one that I saw live was Skillings at Cincinnati.
Yeah,
he I think might have been one of the first games you ever played at the new arena. And
I mean, this guy has length. He's explosive. I kind of watched him in that game. That's the only one I've really seen. But you've brought in a lot of different pieces here.
Yeah.
How difficult was it to piece all that together to make sure all of them might fit together? And you may not even know until you start to play in November.
Well, that's where the prayer comes in, and then the hard work and evaluation and staying true to what culture and what kind of team you want. And with us, why after this draft, we're going to be the only program to have 5 straight top 19 picks. We're still one of 3 programs to win a game in the tournament since 2019. And we're one of 2 programs to be a top 3 seed in the last 5 NCAA tournaments. So that's a lot of winning, and a lot of winning starts with the character and culture you want. And I know a lot of people haven't seen the guys that we're bringing in, but the good thing is hopefully you see them a lot this year, and hopefully they're really successful. We feel good with how they'll represent our university and their opportunities to be successful. You mentioned Dan. Dan averaged 15 points against Baylor. So if you can't beat him, join him, right? So he's somebody that 7'2" wingspan, can do a lot of different things. And hopefully the Dan Skillings that played against us, we can get the whole year. And he's somebody that can really affect the game on both ends of the court because of his size and length. And then we can talk about anybody else you want individually, but we have a lot of guys that are two-way guys, play offense, play defense, care about winning, great teammates, great work ethic, and a lot of good things can happen when you start with that.
We had a chance to talk to Tunde Yesufu. We had a chance to visit with Obi from Wyoming, Rataj at Oregon State, among a couple others. You had Isaac Williams, there's White from Omaha. They made a great run this year. I mean, these seem to be, you hope, not just good basketball players, but as you said, good people, good guys that fit what you want. But these guys can play. I mean, they come from different variety of levels and stuff. I mean, it seemed like you guys may have hit not a jackpot, but it seemed like these guys can all play.
Well, I'll be honest. Yes, they can, but there's a lot of good players out there. Now the question is, what do you prioritize in those good players? And most of all, these guys will fit the culture, Joy. They'll represent Baylor, Central Texas, Waco the right way. And they all have upside. And last, but definitely not least, they all chose Baylor, meaning most, if not all, had opportunities to go other places for more money or more this or that, but they value what Baylor had and what they wanted to be a part of. And there's something to be said for people that want to be at your institution and put on a Baylor uniform as well.
You knew Caden Powell when he was at Midway, so there's another young man we had on the show that gets to come back to his hometown along with others. How much does the bulk inside? You mentioned that you guys got thin there, and also the height and weight and strength and all that, the physicality. How much do you feel like you've bulked that up after you lost Josh last year? Of course, that really became a problem.
And that's where last year, again, one of the things we didn't have was enough depth. With Caden, since you mentioned him, it's the first time we've been able to bring a player from Waco, Midway High School, back to Baylor. Obviously went to Wyoming and Rice, did a great job there. His mom's been a legendary law school professor at Baylor. But again, I think Caden had a lot of potential coming out of high school and continued to really work on his craft and get better. Top 50 offensive rebounder percentage-wise in the Ken Palm Analytics, top 40 free throw rate. Someone that averaged 10 and 7 at Rice, and somebody really will fit in academically and represent and cares and loves Baylor. But it's great to have a hometown player and somebody that everybody can look up at in Waco and say, yeah, he walked the same streets and ate at the same restaurants and put in the same work that hopefully I can, and I can get to Baylor one day. So in 22 years, going on 23, it's great to finally have somebody from Midway High School representing Baylor University. Excited about that.
He was thrilled, and he can play too, give you some physicality. I know there's other names. We're not going to get to all of them. Scott, how much have the last couple of years perhaps made you reflect on you as a coach and also as what the program, where the program is?
Well, I think the toughest thing is everybody in sports is competitive, and you always want to find a way to win. And just as everything is adjusted so much and changed so rapidly, just trying to make sure that we're doing the right thing to give us a chance to win the last game. And again, only one team's winning a national championship, so that's hard to do. We all know that. But we found a way to win an NIT championship and an NCAA championship, and Coach Calipari is the only active coach to do that. And in the modern history, only Nolan and Calhoun joined that crowd. So we've won at the highest level. And as the rules continue to change, hopefully there's more stability now. We can get back to finding a way to be on top, because that's the goal of not only the Baylor fans, but the Baylor coaches, staff, and team as well. So like this group, excited for the summer tour, see what we do well, and then a coach's job is to put them in the best positions to be successful. And we'll see what happens there.
How seriously, mentally, physically exhausted were you and your staff after you guys had to piece all that together in the last 2 to 3 months?
Yeah. I wish I was 32 still. I had to add another cup of coffee to this. but again, there's going to be more transition than you've had, obviously, in previous years. But each and every year, I think we'll get more and more stable in our profession. And what's really a blessing at Baylor is to have Mac and Linda at the forefront of that, because they get to have a seat at the table and a voice in making our profession and making our university in a position where we can help young people that come here. Because at the end of the day, we do want to prepare champions for life. And it's hard to do that in 8 months. Obviously, every coach, every university would prefer to have people start and graduate at university. And how can we work to make that happen? So if they choose to leave, they choose to leave, but they can reach their goals and dreams by staying as well.
Last question. Do you feel like just college athletics, the NCAA, everybody in general just like contributed to the mess that you could see maybe the paint peeling or the ducts weren't working or all of these? I mean, Scott, this has been unbelievable the last 3 to 4 years.
Yeah. Well, I think it's probably a little bit like human nature, right? In college basketball, 363 schools you're trying to make happy. Then you try to incorporate all the college sports. Then you try to incorporate Division II, Division III. It's hard to make decisions that benefit everybody. So not an easy task, but obviously hindsight's 2020, and you wish you could go back in time and do a couple things different that maybe would have avoided this. But the good thing is we're heading in the right direction. The House settlement, hopefully, prayerfully, is going to make things a lot more stable in college basketball, and then we'll continue to tweak and make it a way where it's beneficial to all parties and allows some continuity.
Are you still as happy as you've ever been before? I know your faith helps you do that every day, but are you still as positive about life as you've always been?
Well, I can tell you one thing. The glass is half full in the Drew family, and one of the things with the transition is we get 15 new guys to work with this year, and normally it might be 3 or 4. So it's a lot more people you get to have an impact on, and that's a blessing. So excited about that. Obviously, everybody's more excited when you win the last game. But I tell you, last year, if there was probably one thing you could take away, hearing VJ, Jaden, Norchad's interviews after season ended, I mean, that's winning the game of life. That's eternal winning. That goes a lot longer than just your last game. I mean, normally, even if you win your last game, you have about 20 minutes till the first media person asks, can you repeat? So eternity lasts a lot longer than a 40-minute game, we know.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. It's great to see your face. Scott Drew.
Great to see you, sir. Hey, you're going to have to come here and learn some new names.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I know. I told Pat Nunley, and I'll need to tell J-Mo, they're going to have to go to school.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Have a great summer, Scott. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir.
It's 365 Sports.
All right, so there's Scott Drew, and rebuilding. They had Carr from Tennessee, who was marinating as a redshirt, and man, I mean, basically the entire roster, not the only program to go through that, but I think it's like 15, as he mentioned, new faces on the roster. All right, so there's Scott Drew, Baylor men's basketball coach. Haven't talked to him since they were knocked out of the tournament very quickly. Appreciate his time. Now, we have, of course, on and off throughout the last 2 or 3 months, looked at football programs. We're still inside the Big Ten. And Craig Smoak, our good friend Barry Odom, new football coach, head coach at Purdue and the Boilermakers.
Yes, and this all by design, of course. You know, I wanted to spend 20-plus minutes on the Purdue schedule, but we're short on time. But we all thought about it. We're like, well, Scott Drew has a history in the state of Indiana. Purdue's in Indiana, so that's why Scott Drew is the logical lead, and it all makes sense. This was all pre-planned out and totally organized. But, no, in all seriousness, Purdue was terrible last year, and they had to fire their head coach, and that's why Barry Odom is now the new man in charge there for the Boilermakers, fresh off their 1-11 season under Ryan Walter a year ago. So new skipper, new look, and hopefully some new results for Purdue. But the Ryan Walters there, like I remember when they hired him, I don't know what I thought about it at the time, but I didn't think he was going to be as quick of a stint as it was. I mean, he was boom, blink of an eye out of there. It was just very clear that they needed to make a change. And I think Barry Odom's a really good hire. So I'm excited to see what he can do and try to pump some life into that program. But this is not to get into all those details. This is to just take a look at the schedule. We're trying to get through everybody in the country, and we're going to be cutting tight, I think. But here we go with Purdue. Saturday, August the 30th, Ball State, 11 a.m., Big Ten Network, to open up the season. So Purdue should be feeling pretty good about being 1-0, should be feeling pretty okay about being 2-0. Southern Illinois, Saturday, September the 6th, be a night game on Big Ten Network. So Big Ten Network subscription, a must for Purdue fans, as well as a Peacock membership and probably Paramount Plus as well. So isn't it great being a college football fan watching games on TV these days?
Yep.
Man, so Big Ten Network games. Then they get into the Big Ten schedule starting in week number 3, as on September the 13th, they will be at home against USC and Lincoln Riley's Trojans. Then the following week at Notre Dame, their first road trip of the year will be to South Bend, so not that far away, but very notable. That'll already be announced, or has already been announced, as an NBC 2:30 kickoff, and that's where their schedule first breaks. The first month of the season, 2-0 looks really possible. 2-2 looks very likely.
Yeah.
So Ball State, Southern Illinois, USC at home, and then go to Notre Dame and then take a break.
The good news is they don't leave their state for a good long while. And we'll talk about that in a second. But the first 3 at home, and then you go and play what's probably going to be a really tough Notre Dame team. But 2-2, again, that gives you a little bit of confidence. But they do, like, overall, like this is it's like front and back loaded a little bit for them. Where
at the end I mentioned like who they miss out on and all that. Like there's not a lot they miss out on in terms of the top teams in the league if you're going off of a year ago. And speaking of that, when they do return from their bye week, it'll be the Illini. Illinois comes to Purdue for that one on Saturday, October the 4th. October the 11th, they hit the road for just the second time. So they're going to get all the way almost to mid-October before their second road trip, and that will be to Minnesota. But the thing about that is now there's a lot of road trips in the second half of this schedule. So they'll go to Minnesota on October the 11th, to Northwestern October the 18th, come back home to take on Rutgers on October the 25th, and then back on the road November 1st, get the month started in the Big House, Ann Arbor against the Wolverines. The following week, Ohio State. They get Michigan, Ohio State back-to-back. But Ohio State at their place on November the 8th. Then November the 15th, back on the road to Washington for a bit of a lengthy road trip. And then they get to take a breath before gearing up for one final game there at the end of the year, which I'll go ahead and just get to that. It's their only non-Saturday game, but it will be the in-state rivalry there, Purdue, Indiana. Purdue, the home team, on Friday, November the 28th on NBC Peacock. That game also announced. So that is the second part of their schedule. So that is that's pretty dicey, man. Illinois at home, at Minnesota, at Northwestern, Rutgers at home, at Michigan, Ohio State at home, at Washington, then a break, and then Indiana at home. How are you feeling about the Boilermakers?
I don't feel great about that last run. As much as we love Barry Odom, I think he's going to do a great job there. But to have to play, I mean, these are tough runs. USC, Notre Dame, Illinois are 3 games in a row you have to play. Then you get a chance.
And who knows, like a Minnesota
But like Minnesota, Northwestern, and Rutgers, those are the ones that you're probably going to have the smallest amount of spreads in, whether you're the favorite or not in any of those 3 games.
Yeah.
But particularly Minnesota and Rutgers are pretty good. I mean, like they're not 3 and 9 teams. They're usually right now bowl teams. And so that's mostly bowl teams you're playing on your schedule. And then to have to go 4 games in a row against Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, and Indiana.
Yeah,
it makes me think that, like,
is there a tougher on paper 4
like when
game
Nebraska
stretch?
pissed off the commissioner during COVID? Remember?
Did they take Tony Petitti's parking spot or something?
I know.
Like, and he said, "Hey, like that's mine." And like, yeah, you were only 2 spots down. It's like, oh, you should have moved the car.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so they will not play Oregon unless they're in the Big Ten championship game. They will not play UCLA. They will not play Penn State either. Those are, I think, the most notable teams that are not on this schedule. But they do get a handful of pretty good teams. Who else? No Iowa, no Nebraska either on that schedule. So they do miss Wisconsin as well. Yeah, so I think that's the bulk of the teams they miss out on. So there's Nebraska, Wisconsin, Oregon. Those are all games that you could that could be uphill battles as well. So I don't know how much of a break you get either way and who you miss out on, because who you do play, no Michigan State either. That'd be another one that they don't play. But still, man, like, yeah, that stretch of Michigan, Ohio State, Washington, Indiana is a hell of a final month of the season, and might be one of the tougher, if not the toughest, just on paper runs in the entire last month of the season by a team in college football this year. We'll see that ultimately, but pretty safe bet to take, I think, if you're that kind of person that gets into those types of bets, because that's nasty streak to end the season. And yeah, Rutgers could very well be good and dangerous. So there you go. There's the Purdue schedule and what they will be facing in 2025. And I think last I saw, and I'll double check, over under wins 3.5.
Whoa.
So you would think that a couple of those are going to be those first 2 weeks. And that means after that, you're hoping to break that by winning 2 of your last like 10 games.
Yeah, it's going to either have to be at Northwestern or home against Rutgers is the games that you might win.
I think that what you'll see from Purdue is probably not a big jump in record this year. I think you'll see a big jump in style and the competence and the way that they play games. So knowing the way that Barry Odom coaches, especially with some of the, like, there's going to be a really good team on this list who has a scare against Purdue and gets a chunk bitten out of them, and walks away limping maybe a little bit, going, oh, damn. All right. They're coming. we better watch out.
Don't steal Dion's line.
Yeah, they're on the way. And look, Purdue's got a pretty good, history in the middle of the Big Ten. They're not Big Ten giants, but they've seen their times. Joe Tiller was a great coach for them, and
wasn't Braum there?
Yeah, Braum was there. So they have their stretches. It's not impossible. So,
I'm gonna go ahead and say them winning the Big Ten is impossible this year.
It's not impossible for them to be good.
No, it's not impossible.
Anything's
possible.
This year is not going to be their year. Again, they took the last burrito at the buffet or something like that, and Tony Petitti's like, well, the hell with that.
Yeah.
So there you go. There is Purdue, another one in the books as we take a look through the schedules. I don't know. I haven't looked ahead, but I'm going to guess it's Rutgers.
It is Rutgers.
All right, cool. We'll do Rutgers tomorrow.
The Fighting Tony Sopranos.
Okay, so we've been through the Big 12 and the ACC. How many more teams left in the 38-team Big Ten?
So right now we have 5 teams left in the Big Ten, and then we'll get into the SEC.
All right, so we have
21 left.
21 left. Yeah, we can do that between now and Christmas. We'll get to that before the start of the season. Okay. All right, Craig, thank you so much. Paul Ctalina at his top 5 on the who will win the Jell-O shot competition in Omaha among the 8 teams that will be there. And then also Andrew Valade will give us the results from the polls that he put up today. I'm David Smoak, Paul Ctalina, Craig Smoak. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store, and a really good place for you to go find what you need for Father's Day. What you're going to put on the grill, your dad. Maybe it's your father that will be the one cooking, or you're going to cook for him. And right now, for this particular week, they have easy peel shrimp available, no matter what. It's either the 2 pounds, some of the ones that are kind of the medium to a little bit smaller. Chicken tenders and chicken breast, throw that on the grill. Boneless pork butt and also the bone-in pork butt. And yes, prime ribeye steaks for Father's Day at $27.50 a pound, or prime New York strips at $20.25 a pound. I went by there. It's been a couple, 2-3 weeks ago, and got myself some really nice thick bone-in ribeyes and regular ribeyes too, and even the tiger shrimp. At times they'll have that available, so you could do some bacon-wrapped shrimp. The Bauer family, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, your hometown grocery store.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
is Paul Ctalina's Top 5.
Welcome into the Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Go to 365sportsdeals.com. You can find them there, or just go to flagandanthem.com. Use promo code 365sports. You'll get a discount. And check out today a special Top 8 by request of Garrett Ross. We did this last year. We're going to do it every year for the College World Series. How teams will place in the College World Series Jell-O shot contests. Okay, so fans of schools, I may, indict your culture a little bit here, and I hope you don't get mad. I hope you see it as a gauntlet I've thrown down to you, because you know who number 1 is going to be. Number 8, Murray State. Look, this is not about Murray State's ability to throw down Jell-O shots. It's just about the volume of fans that will be there. The stadium seats 800. The coach mows the lawn. The players roll out the tarp. You don't have the volume to do it without a large benefactor. And a large benefactor I hope you do have or find. But just based merely on the size of your fan base, which has grown prodigiously in the last 24 hours, I don't think you can get it done. But I have hope for you. I have hope for you all the way around, Murray State. Number 7, UCLA. I know this is a shocker to see them so low. I just don't see UCLA being enthusiastic Jell-O shot people. LA is kind of above middle America, right or wrong. And I just think that this is going to be a problem. I just think they won't get it done. But because they're a bigger school and will have a pretty good contingent there in Omaha, I think they'll come in before last. But if a team did surprisingly, with a student body this size, fall below their goal, I think it would be this one. Number 6, Coastal Carolina. I think you'll do well, but again, size of the fan base is going to be prohibitive here. You're from Coastal Carolina. You guys know how to party. I know that much. But, again, sheer volume of human beings is really, really going to slow you down here. Number 5, Oregon State. Only this low because Oregon's more of a beer state than a shot state. Craft breweries and all these different things, that's where Oregon falls in. So I think while they might do okay here, and what the hell, why not kind of a thing. I think 1, volume of fan size, and 2, more of a beer drinking people. A lot of IPAs going to get downed in Omaha this week. Number 4, Louisville. These guys know how to do it. I think they just probably won't get over the hump because of the 3 schools that are in front of them. Believe you me, the Louisville Cardinals know how to party. They're good in pretty much every sport. They know how to have a good time. And by nature, as Kentuckians, they are whiskey drinkers. So, Jell-O shot, just maybe a little bit of a step down from wonderful, sweet mash Kentucky bourbon. But I think that they can really, really do well here. Number 3, Arizona. Do I need to elaborate on how much people in Arizona can throw down? Have you ever seen Lake Havasu at spring break? Give me that. All right? They're going to throw down. Their only problem is they're up against the SEC, whose people know how to party. Number 2, Arkansas. Arkansas will get to number 2 simply for the goal to try to get past number 1. But they won't do it. They'll do well. There'll be a lot of woo pig suing and a lot of public urination because of Arkansas fans. But number 1, because they will win it before it starts, essentially, LSU. Some big LSU guy has already bought 50,000 of these things, probably. Just how it is every single year. If LSU is in the College World Series, they're going to win the damn shot contest. It's not even a contest. 1, South Louisiana's favorite drink is colored something. It's Jell-O. It's some kind of purple gasoline. Any kind of, hurricane, hand grenade. Every drink in South Louisiana is named after something scary or terrible. Jell-O shot, that's they put that in baby bottles in Baton Rouge. This is nothing to them. So not only will they already have 50,000 on the board, they'll do all of them. There will be no wasted Jell-O shots from the purple and gold. None. They will take them to the house, and then they will tell that story in rehab. That is going to do it for us. That's going to do it for the top 5. Smokey has Andrew's poll numbers right now.
All right. Thank you very much, Paul. Yeah, they take them in baby bottles. No, they'll just grab your shots and go with them. Here are the poll results from Andrew Valet, the King Jiu-Jitsu. This could have had a lot of different plays, but these are the 4 different plays and games that Andrew came up with. Top 4 college football plays now since 2000. Which one is the greatest of all time? The kick 6 when Auburn stunned Alabama. Boise State and the Fiesta Bowl on the hook and ladder.
I don't remember that.
Statue of Liberty.
I don't remember that. Yeah. I don't think that actually happened.
Yeah.
Boomer.
That was, man, what a finish.
Good thing they don't show the replay very often.
No.
It's not like on every highlight reel of every college show that is known to man.
The Invincible. Now, I thought I saw some chatter in the chat room that nobody included the Vince Young 05 USC game. No, that's right there.
That's it. Yeah.
18%. Thought that would get a lot more of the percentage. And then Tua's walk-off when he came in for Jalen Hurts, right? Throws the touchdown pass to end the game against, was that Georgia?
You know, what wasn't in the thing that, if we're going to be homers here, was Jameis Winston to Kelvin Benjamin in 2013. Wasn't in the top 25.
Really?
To win the national title in the last second of the game.
I didn't realize. Like, I don't really remember that. I mean, I do know that you say it, but it does not come to like the top of mind when I think greatest plays.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
How about now?
It's ESPN.
It's that
being
ESPN
anti-FSU.
Yeah, it's that ESPN bias.
Here we go.
They beat an SEC team.
Garrett, is there something from your perspective that should be? Again, you have 4. That means you take one out. It's hard to do that, but anything you would add if you could add another name or a player or 2? How about Graham Harrell to Michael Crabtree?
That could be on there. That could definitely be on there.
That had national championship implications because Texas suffered the loss, even though they beat Oklahoma earlier that year.
No, I mean, I think for me, it's the kick 6, hands down. I can't think of anyone I would put on there.
So I think the Vince thing, just in general, that the play wasn't super impressive per se. I mean, it was impressive, but it wasn't like, wow, I can't believe he just outran people because he did that.
The kick 6 was crazy, yeah.
But that was just obviously the stakes and everything. Boise, I mean, I can be unbiased. I can. That was incredible. But the kick 6 was just like the coolest shit, for lack of a better term, I've ever seen. I'm sorry, but like it was. It was just like, it was so badass when that happened that I'm totally fine with that being the answer because that was the environment, like everything. It was just so unbelievable. And it was Bama losing, which they never lost at that point, it felt like.
Were you, I don't think you were with us. Smokey and I were at TCU when it happened.
Probably
we
not.
were watching in the TCU press box, the kick 6.
I think I was there. I think I saw that. Yeah,
we were
Craig
watching.
Came in during the spring of 13, I think it was.
Yeah, so you would have been there.
This was like way after that.
It was so
it was 13.
Yeah,
was that just 13 when that was? My God, it feels like it was like 2021.
Alabama was undefeated, and then they lost to OU.
I was here then.
Yeah, but I remember we were watching in the press box, and the good news is we had a ton of time because we were waiting on the elevator.
Oh, the old one?
No, it was the new one. It's still just not very fast there.
At Amon Carter?
Yeah, they just decide that like we're going to turn all the other elevators off, and then we're just going to make you wait on this one.
That one made you want to make sure your will was signed.
The old one was really scary. So.
Okay, Statler and Waldorf taking the.
All right,
remember the elevator?
Yeah.
Talking about this great play. No, the kick 6 was awesome, and I think that's a valid. But I would have thought Texas would have a little bit more voting maybe here, but. Yeah, I think that's a valid winner.
To me, that is such a bizarre play. The Boise State really created a lot of the craziness in college football. That was memorable. And, of course, Vince Young, I mean, individually, as unbelievable a game as you could ever have in a championship moment. So, all right, the other one from Andrew. How much will I almost said Will Rogers. How much will Aaron Rodgers impact the Steelers? Some help. Little to none, 71% right there in the middle. 17 says huge difference, and then not so sure. Great emojis, by the way, 12%.
I say some help is where I would be. I do think he's an upgrade, but to what degree, I'm not really sure. It feels like they've got some stability, even though he's not the most stable guy. So it's like, it just seems like they're walking a real fine line, right? Where this could go left or right in an extreme way any moment. But I would assume he'll be on his best behavior because this is it, man, right? This is the last ride.
No,
so
I did see a couple of notes from him.
I think it'll be some help, but I'd also be fine with little to none. And yeah, so.
I don't know if anyone's ever been able to spin it better than him when he was 100% healthy and locked in.
He is very much little to none to me. In that, look, they went and got DK Metcalf and they drafted well, but this looks like a team, especially with the way that they maneuvered in the draft and the draft picks that they'll have next year, that is gearing up for something else. And the standard in Pittsburgh is Super Bowls.
Mm-hmm.
The standard in Pittsburgh is Super Bowls. This is not a Super Bowl roster, and Aaron Rodgers doesn't make you a Super Bowl team.
Well, here's the other thing, too, is I know that this time of year, like last year, Shedeur Sanders was a first-round pick, right? And there's various other examples that you could use, not just him, but he's an obvious one to use. But there should be, on paper, the expectation is there will be a very quarterback-heavy draft, right? With guys like Drew Aller and Cade Klubnik and so on and so forth. So, yeah, it seems like they're going to be in the hunt for probably one of those guys next year, regardless of what happens. Unless it just turns out to be great. But, yeah, I don't have a lot of optimism for this. This definitely feels like just the end of something, not the beginning of something.
Craig, Kyle Visser, who's a Houston fan, brought up the Houston-Oklahoma kick six on an onside kick, right? The Houston grabbed and ran it back for a touchdown to seal the win against OU.
You have an incredible imagination.
For Garrett Ross, Emery Winter working on 365 Sports tonight at 10:30 tonight on the CW. Andrew Valade, thank you very much. Throwing stuff up, content everywhere, getting a lot of great traction on that. For Garrett Ross, and I said Emery, Andrew, Craig, Paul Ctalina, I'm David Smoak. Thanks to our great sponsors and you, the viewers. Good night, 365 Sports, back tomorrow at 3.